Good evening. I would like to call to order our September monthly town council meeting and thank all that are joining us in council chambers tonight, as well as those watching us on our YouTube channel this evening. We will just move right into our agenda, and first up, is there a motion on the floor to adopt the agenda this evening as presented?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. At this time, Councilman Thevenin will lead us in our invocation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray together. Father, we thank you, as usual, for a beautiful day. Lord, we thank you for the cool crispness of the day, and God, just thank you that you pour out your blessings over us. God, just ask you to continue to do that in our community. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to live in such a great town with so many great people. And so, God, just ask that you bless this meeting tonight. God, that you would be with us as we make decisions that would be best for our community. So, God, we thank you and give you all praise, glory, and honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have two special presentations this evening, and first up, we will have a presentation on the results from pavement management study and a 3-year implementation plan, and we've got Jonathan Young with us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Very excited to be here, and we are going to get to see some pretty exciting stuff, I hope. Well, exciting for us engineers, maybe. So maybe not some other folks. But it is results of our pavement management study. If you remember back during the budget process, we did have, all the departments were challenged with initiatives, innovations, and efficiencies. And this is one of the ones that I had presented during our budget process. We're actually able to implement the money for it from last year's budget. So we wrapped up the project, and now we'll be in the implementation mode. Just a really quick history on how the town has managed and done a great job, I will say, over the last few years, our pavement. And you can kind of see the spreadsheet on your right-hand side. It's really been tracked through a spreadsheet. And it tells you the last time it was surfaced or if there was some other thing that was done to that particular pavement. Towns utilize a couple of different treatment methods also, including mill and fill, which is essentially when you're grinding up asphalt and replacing it with new asphalt, crack sealing, liquid road rejuvenation. The objectives of this project, you can see there on your left-hand side, develop an accurate pavement network inventory, capture HD videos, which is a little bit unique for this particular contractor, process ASTM distresses. Those are just your standards from the United States, all that everybody would use. Calculate pavement condition index. I'm going to talk a lot about PCI, so that's what that is. And then qualify roadways for optimized treatments, establish 3-year working plan, and then provide condition and analytics through Road Insights. Road Insights is actually a GIS dashboard, and I'll show you a picture of it here in a few minutes, and something we may be able to take advantage of. And then that continued support through consulting and support. So the HD inventory, what they did do when they came out, our consultant, they obviously grabbed inventory of all of the roads here in Harrisburg, which is roughly about 87 miles of road. And they've got the from, to, length, width, area, surface. We're able to take all that information actually on the dashboard. You can click on any road section here in town, and it'll show you an HD video of the day they took it. And you can ride through and look at that road section. That information is obviously taken back into their dashboard and processed, and we'll again go over that a little bit. Just some common pavement distresses we see throughout the United States, maybe not necessarily here in Harrisburg, but I know there are some of these. Alligator cracking, starting from your left going to your right. Again, start to see that pretty much everywhere in North Carolina. That's when you start to see those failures in your pavement. Block cracking, reflected cracking is when you've got something wrong underneath typically, and that's why it's in a straight line like that. And then raveling, which is just basically you're losing that asphalt layer totally. Tend to see that in your high moisture content areas or maybe snow. Rutting, you've probably all ridden on something that's been rutting before, where you've got basically you've got bad soil underneath there, something's going on that you probably need to go down and do some work on. patching. It can be a lot of things that are happening from patching, whether it's utility cut or, you know, just repairing something along the roadway. And then, of course, bleeding and ride quality is something that's really kind of, you know, up to the person that's on there. It depends on the place where you are, what ride quality is. Again, like I said, they took all that information, the consultant we were working with, they did process it through their system, came back that they have quality control, so they basically review that, and then there is a standard for it, as I said. You can see it there on your screen, and then it develops into a PCI calculation for here in Harrisburg. The 5 categories are excellent, good, fair, poor, failed, and I'll go over each one of those in a little more detail at the end of the slides. This is our dashboard, which is actually one snippet of the dashboard. There's actually multiple layers of it. You can kind of see up in the upper left-hand corner, or up in the right-hand corner there. That's our, here in Harrisburg, that is the PCI number right now, which is actually really good. So done a great job over the years here with the spreadsheet and where we are. 78 is high. You don't see anything much more than an 80 anywhere in North Carolina. It's just hard to achieve those numbers. The middle screen you see there is all the roads in Harrisburg with a, that's actually the ranking based on the year right now. You can change it around to put what the rehabilitation is or whatever it happens to be. So they did complete the 3-year review of the streets. We actually have our first paving out right now. That bid is due this week. So that'll be from this report. As I said, the professional collected the video. We did get our PCI index back, which is 78. And then this management plan does include several different treatment methods. Tonight we're going to be really focusing in on our structural, which is mill and fill, but we do have plans to implement all of these over these 3 years. And then of course the deliverable is that GIS dashboard that you can see right there. This is something we also, one of the things I did want to point out, we are looking at whether we want to put this on, make this available to the public. It's a pretty intuitive, pretty easy dashboard. But you know, it's just something we'll be making a decision on. This was actually something I brought up to you in our budget process, is the deterioration curve for asphalt. So you can kind of see in that 10 to 20 year time frame that you really get a lot of loss in asphalt quality. And so what we're shooting for is that green line at the top. That's where you're putting in your pavement management, your preservation, your structurals, your rejuvenation. You're really trying to extend the life of that. And again, you know, I don't want you to think that it goes on forever. You know, the life of pavement is just not, it's only going to be so long. So you're trying to extend it in that 5 to 10 year range, which again, you'll be able to recoup that in dollars as well. So just a really quick overview of what some of that would look like. Again, this was a test case that was done in the middle there. You can see an October 2018 photo. This is under test conditions. So the original treatment was done, mill and fill, or mill and overlay on this whole asphalt here in 2004. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, or the picture, that it's with no additional treatment. You've got a lot of cracking. You've actually got some potholing there. Needs some maintenance. Again, nothing was done here. And then on the right-hand side, there was some crack sealing, conventional micro, which is one of the surfaces that we'll talk about tonight. But you can kind of see the difference in those road sections. Again, all that it is based on a lot of different things. It could be the amount of traffic, whatever it happens to be, underlay, you know, the base, all that stuff would determine what that road's going to look like. And just some general pictures of what each one of these recommendations would look like as well. Last thing here, we'll go over our treatment qualification. As I said, we do have PCI here in Harrisburg of 78. What those PCIs look like from 90 to 100 is an excellent range. That's typically what you'd be looking at from a where you would go in there and do some kind of treatment, is what they call reclamite or fog seals. Some of you may have seen some of this. It's actually pink. A lot of it is when it goes down on the ground. Kind of looks a little weird. But it actually dries pretty quickly, and basically you're just trying to reinvigorate those. The asphalt, you know, is a liquid in there, and it just goes away. As the sun hits it, the things, as other treatments, rain, all that stuff hits it, it just eventually deteriorates, and so you're just trying to rebuild that. And again, this is not a comprehensive life extension, so you can't take all these and collectively put them together. You're only going to have a certain amount of time. Maintenance, we've got that PCI range 70 to 90, and that's a good affair. And again, what we're looking at here is a lot of crack seal. You're going to notice crack seal a lot in here. Crack seal is not aesthetically pleasing, I will say that, in most scenarios, so it typically is combined with other things like a liquid road or something like that to really cover it up. But what crack seal gives you is keeping that moisture out from underneath the pavement. If you can keep it out from underneath the pavement, you can really get away from a lot of things like your potholes, a lot of your cracking and things like that. That's really what you're trying to do. It's a very effective method. To go to preservation, this is where we're starting to actually apply something to the road. Again, this is a lot of times connected with crack sealing, but there's a lot of different examples of this. As I said, you guys have used, we've used liquid road here in the past, and then we've got microsurfacing, slurry seal, cape seal. You're looking at a good affair in 7 to 10 years life extension. Structural, which is what we're going to focus on in our current paving for this year. There's a couple of different reasons why that is. One of them is we do feel like that's going to give us the best bet this year and be able to raise that score, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to fine tune it, get better roads. But that's in that 30 to 49 range. That is a poor condition, 10 to 15 years of life expectancy. And of course, that's your typical mill and fill where you can see there you're taking out a piece of asphalt and putting asphalt back in. And I've got examples on each one of these from here in the town of Harrisburg. And then the last one, this is what we want to stay away from actually because this is your most expensive. That's kind of what you saw in this treatment life cycle was least expensive down to most expensive. Here you've got rehabilitation, which is essentially you're tearing up the road, tearing up the subgrade, rebuilding all of it. You don't want to do that. The good thing here in Harrisburg, there's only one that actually was in that PCI range of 0 to 29, which is actually Harrisburg Industrial Park Drive where the Public Works facility is. We do not believe it is in that. It's kind of odd. But we do not believe that that's actually, we need to go in there and do that subgrade. You can see the PCI is at 25. So it's in that realm of, we do believe it still would be a good structural candidate. So that's actually on our list this year to redo. Just a little bit of benchmarking. As I said, great job has been done here in Harrisburg. Current overall PCI is 78. If you get up in that 80s range, you really have done, that's just like some of your top-notch communities have really focused on it for years and years. It's just hard to get above that. Miles of, your miles of streets maintained are roughly about 83. We add to those every year, as you know, as well. And then I just gave you a couple of local area benchmarkings. Mooresville's is at 74, and then Concord just got theirs done as well, and they're at 75. So again, what we want to do, the goal of this is to get that number up. We really want to hit that 80 to 82 so we can be in those top tiers in our community. So with that, I will take questions.
Are there any questions for Jonathan?
Just a comment. I would like it to be above that 80, 82, and I think it's self-fulfilling. If I understand one of the graphs you have in there, if you take better care of it, it's actually less dollars. So
it is.
If we run the numbers to say if we got to 80, it'd actually be cheaper in the long run.
It would. So the goal is that, obviously. What you're trying to do is you're trying to spend the dollars on the front side of it to get to those higher numbers, like your cheaper dollars. So, for example, last year, I think we accepted, 3 miles of streets here in Harrisburg, whatever the number will happen to be. Those are your streets that you'd be looking at. I know it sounds crazy, but you might want to go in there and start putting some of the stuff I showed you on there that was the pink. You might want to keep that stuff rejuvenated and make sure it's good for that next 5 years. So and that costs you, let's say that's $1 per square foot, as opposed to mill and fill that might be $10 per square foot. Yeah. So that's what your goal is here, and that's why in this particular instance we're going to be doing a lot of the structural, but we know we actually put some additional money in our street maintenance budget last year. If you remember, I think it's about $100,000. We can go in and actually do some of those other initiatives, which has happened already here.
So when's the next survey we're going to get? So we'll see that we move from 78 to 82 or whatever it is.
It's a great question. We're planning on doing that every 3 years. It used to be most municipalities would do it on a 5-year cycle. What started these municipalities started seeing was that 5 years, you would have streets that you've didn't even look at the year, you know, you started it and all of a sudden you've changed the traffic dynamic on it or something's happened and it just wasn't effective. So really the 3-year is the sweet spot on all of it now. So we're looking at a 3-year.
And how much does that survey cost?
$31,000.
Okay.
And that's in dashboard and everything. That's all the stuff.
Any other questions for Jonathan? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Looks good.
Our second special presentation tonight is the update on historical farm mill project, and we've got Jim Spina and then a representative from McGill and Associates with us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's my pleasure to be here again this month talking about another potential park upgrade or renovation, depending on how we want to look at it. And this one is about our historic farm mill, property located on the corner of Shamrock and Farm Mill. And just a quick project review where we started and where we're at. In June of 21, the mill itself was deconstructed with many artifacts and millstones and some lumber able to be saved for potential future use in future parks. And in September that year, we did appoint a committee consisting of staff, council, Hatch, our Hatch committee, our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and a few people from the community as representatives. And then May of 24, the town did contract with McGill and Associates to begin work on a farm mill historic master plan. In June of 24, that committee reconvened, the committee I mentioned earlier, convened and met with McGill to discuss vision. What kind of things would be important? How would we maintain the historical nature of that property? And that was shared with McGill, and they went off and got to work to start coming up with a couple of renderings and some ideas as to how we could best use that property. And so between that June and that September of 24, they developed a couple of renderings, and they had a community drop in here in this room on a very rainy night, and we wanted to hold it at Farm Mill Park, but it was incredibly wet, so we had it right here in council chambers. Had a good showing, a large group of staff, committee members, but also quite a few community residents, as well as some council members were in attendance there to take a look at a couple of the early renderings as to what was possible out at the Farm Mill Historic Park. So then, based on that information they received that night, they went back to work, McGill did, and started developing a third rendering with like a big approach. You know, what are the different things we could do there, bigger than just what they brought for their first two renderings. And they, in February, they did meet with myself and our staff, Rob and Lee. We met to kind of get a little better idea of which way they were headed. And they went back to work and did a few more things. And then in July of 25, we met one more time. We met in person here at Town Hall. Lee, myself, and Rob met with Jim Ford and Mike Norris from McGill, and kind of gave them some ideas, a couple of tweaks to the rendering itself, and they went off again in the month of August and kind of did some more work, and then that's why we ended up here tonight in September of 25, as McGill is here to present their latest rendering. So I'm going to turn the podium over to Jim Ford from McGill and Associates, and he'll take you through the next few slides.
Thank you, Jim. Jim Ford from McGill, great introduction. Most of what I'm going to cover is in this timeline somewhere, so there may be a little bit of repeat, but Mayor, council members, I really do appreciate the opportunity to explore some of what the concepts ended up looking like. With that, we'll move on. We'll go over some site analysis. We'll get into a little more detail on that community input. We'll look at those concepts. Ultimately, you know, costs matter, so we're going to talk about that just a little bit, and next steps. So under the site analysis, you may know this site. It's largely wooded. It's on the Rocky River. It's actually really beautiful if you've never been out there. Some of my community members showed up and said they go tubing down the Rocky. That was really cool. But largely it's wooded. It is a site of historic mill. But think about what that means. We're Harrisburg. I heard somebody else say, hey, we're a young community. Well, what's the history? What's our quality of life if we don't know where we came from? And Harrisburg has an opportunity here to highlight some of that history, which I think is really interesting. Overall, we'll get into what this means to the site as far as limitations. Yeah, it is next to the Rocky River, and rivers tend to flood every now and then. This one doesn't do it all the time, but it does have a significant portion there in pink in the floodway. We had to consider that when laying objects out, just because it's more expensive to deal with things in the floodway, if it's even possible. But in this case, we tried to explore all the different options. We talked about that history a little bit. There's a great website that goes over this if you guys want more information on this particular facility, this site. But you can see the building before it was knocked down. As Jim had mentioned, there were artifacts, there were millstones, there were some really cool things that can be recycled and repurposed. And I think you've got those stored. Overall, those what the building looked like there on the right. We'll get into what that means later. For those of you that haven't been out there, it's a little bit hard to see, but it's a wooded site, right? There's a few low areas. It's a little marshy next to the water, but there's some huge rocks, a lot of rocks down by the water. And it's really beautiful. I can imagine, folks wanting to go down there and see what I saw, of course, with less briars to walk through, right? The community input, we did hold that. We had 30 participants show up. That was last September. I was really touched because I had folks that said, hey, I'm a neighbor. It's great to see something happening over here. I didn't hear a lot of negative. I heard a lot of ideas. It was interesting because we had just come off the comp plan, the comprehensive recreation plan. I'd already learned a lot about the community and the kind of things that they liked, right? And then thinking about this site, it's a little bit different, right? You're not going to have stick and ball out here necessarily, but it's still recreation. Right? But the folks came out, they looked at the concepts we'll look at here in a moment, and responded. And with those responses and with the staff input, we did end up with that third concept. We'll get to that, but largely it was, hey, we like what you got, but can you go bigger? And so we'll look at what those different designs came out to be. But in that meeting, while we did give people the opportunity to write things down and speak to us, we did show precedent images. That's important because not everybody knows. When you say a boardwalk, what do you mean a boardwalk? What do you mean a water wheel exhibit? What are you talking about? So I did try to find photographs that pretty closely looked like the things that I'd heard from the public. Not that it's super important, these things aren't ready yet, but I think this represented some of the ideas also out of the comp plan, which is interesting. That's gonna be really hard for the folks out here to see, but you remember we looked at that site, we noticed it was a big area of the floodway. You'll see that there are not structures in that northern portion for that reason. This is sort of a light option. It has a small parking area. It has a picnic shelter. It has a playground. It has a water area. Where's that? You're kidding me. Well, that's something else. Okay, there's that playground. There's that shelter. That's that water play area. Water play. We looked at it in an image if you've seen the upper left-hand corner, but if you've ever been to a park that has water you can turn on and people can watch how the hydrology works, how it starts, how it flows, and how it ends up somewhere and has to be dealt with. Neat lesson that you could learn here at this park in the future. Largely paved trails for ADA reasons, right? Makes it easier for folks with strollers or in wheelchairs or having disabilities to use your trail. There's a few opportunities because of the low areas in here to have a few bridges, which adds interest and keeps your feet dry too. But gardens, people wanted to see community gardens. They wanted to see places where those exhibits of what's a millstone? What's that big piece of metal that's in here? A sign that says, hey, this used to be a mill. And these are some of the things you would have found out here. So it's an education for your students, for your residents that are unfamiliar, etc. But this was kind of the lowest of the three. Moving on. Should have blown it up the first time. Is that a little bit easier for you to see? That's that water play area, right? Okay, now it's not working, Jim. That's okay. Top one. That's that area right there. Now, moving down, and I'll finalize concept one with this area. Right now, remember that area with the big boulders? That's where that is. The 2 or 3 people I've been with to this site all seem to gravitate to that spot. Coincidentally, that's where the race is, where the old mill used to be, where the big rocks are. Kind of an interesting spot if you know the history of how the mill used to work. But it's highlighted down at the bottom. Largely it's being used for fishing, wildlife observation. Perhaps those tubers that I met at the community meeting have a cleaner place to get into the river there when possible. Concept number 2. It's kind of the same thing but reimagined, right? This one offers a big difference in that green area, okay? That's your event lawn. That could be an area where, hey, I need a space to host an award ceremony. Hey, let's have a craft fair. Let's do something to honor the history and bring people out. While the parking lot's been increased slightly from one to be able to accommodate those activities. Now you have an area to be able to do those cultural activities. So you're not only hosting young people, you're not only hosting people that want to get an education about history and those walkers, but also some small events throughout the year. That kind of got people thinking after the community meeting. Well, you've got these structures. You've got a picnic shelter with restrooms, a couple of places here. What if it was a bigger building? Can you do this a little bigger? So that's what we did in concept 3. Move ahead. Now there's a few more slides for this one because this is the more grand vision. This does reflect not only things we heard way back in the comp plan, but the need for trails and walking areas and picnic areas, et cetera. But it also does incorporate that history. I've taken liberty to find some images that represent these elements. We'll go over those pretty quickly. So that's the educational classroom. That's a space that could be leased. You could rent that for an event. Certainly staff can use that for internal meetings as well, but you have another area in that scribe circle there. Now the entire site, let's just come from the beginning. You pull in, you park. The first thing you're gonna see is that building and a water wheel. Why? Because that's cool. There used to be a water wheel there, and I think that adds to the theme, right? Who doesn't like to walk up to a water wheel? What is this thing? Hey, there used to be one of these here. So that's why that's there. That serves as a big sign. History, the mill, what this site used to be about. To accommodate the folks that would come, the parking lot's been made bigger, right? We've got to accommodate as big a parking lot as we can get in there if we want to attract that many people. In a large paver area, there's picnic tables. There's also an area here we'll get into that's a gathering space, a play area. The trail connects you to that same area where folks were getting in the water, but this time you've got a wooden platform, as well as a way to walk around the edges with those tubes and get in that water if and when that's still allowed. The area at the top we'll get into as well, that's a boardwalk with an overlook. We saw some great images and heard from some folks that said that they had seen these elsewhere. Would love to see what that would look like out here to take advantage of the aesthetics of this beautiful area. There's that water play element I mentioned before there in the bottom. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. I have 3 kids. Those things are always popular, but they're also very educational. The building that you see here is just my idea of what does the history look like, what the old mill building look like, how could you build something more robust that looks more contemporary and respects that history of Harrisburg, bringing in that water wheel element. Doesn't have to look like that. That was just one of the ideas that looked like what staff was mentioning to me. Moving on to the picnic shelter, you'll notice that area number 3 has a rectangle within a rectangle, right? That's because the idea of this picnic shelter, and you've probably been to those that have picnic tables and restrooms underneath, they're kind of half and half. Now imagine that that interior space is the center, and that the porch-like area around the perimeter becomes your gathering space for rocking chairs, meeting places, etc. You could even have art on those exterior walls. But it adds a layer of interest. It's something a bit more contemporary and certainly useful for folks here. There's the picnic area I mentioned before, and we're getting a little bit closer. There's that really cool water feature. Why a water feature? Well, because I did the comprehensive plan. How many times did I hear we want water, we want places to splash and play? That doesn't necessarily mean swimming pools. But if you've been to any of the local parks around, you'll notice the ones that have these water spray areas where somebody can walk up, hit a button, and watch the water come out of some feature, in this case the boulders, to emulate what's down at the river. You'll see that seasonally, when it's warm, it's a cooling area. It provides an extra sound. So when you gather there, it's kind of an enclosed space with that soundscape. It's certainly aesthetically pleasing, I think so. It has the vernacular, we spoke of, the Rocky River. But more than that, seasonally when it's turned off, it becomes a plaza to meet and gather. Just an interesting spot. Moving ahead, that big yellow triangle, what is that? Well, you've got some of these now, you have some shade structures. Why? Because it was suggested by our community members, and certainly after you read the comp plan, that there's more room for play in Harrisburg. Why? Because you are a growing community, and because there are more families than usual. You are not necessarily the oldest community, but one that still is very broad with children and families. What I'm showing you, though, is if you were to do a play area, don't just do a regular play area. Think about the vernacular. Think about that river. What does that look like in, let's say, a pouring place? What kind of play equipment could you be in there? Well, hey, it's 2025. You don't have to have the old basic slide anymore. There's companies that sell things like that otter. Why? Because there's otters in the Rocky River, right? Why not? It's cool. It brings the education, the history, and it has that local vernacular, and certainly the geography of the area there. Is that little otter thing there. Moving ahead, the history. Now, this is the part that really means the most to me, just because I've researched it and I was really touched. There's so much that went on here. There's a number of different ways to honor that. This is just one of the ways, right? This is the way that seemed to reflect most of what I heard from the community input, and after reactions from staff, the most appropriate way. Now, that doesn't mean the only way. If you notice, this area has what looks like some kind of foundation, an area to sit and view. What does that look like? Here's a precedent. You could rebuild the old foundation of what used to be there. It doesn't mean you have to rebuild the whole structure. Why would it be challenging to build that whole structure? Remember that floodway? It's really hard to build buildings where you're in a floodway. Not only expensive, but it could be time consuming, and who knows how long it'll last. Regardless, it can still be done. But in this case, you're honoring the foundation, and then you've got these educational signs. That's a clear window. And what you can't tell from your seats is there's an acid etched image of a structure, which is talked about in the sign below. Now there's your structure, there's the old mill. Imagine that on that. Now when I'm standing in a certain spot and I read about the history, I can look through that window and literally see a ghost of what used to be there and learn, hey, you know what, they didn't rebuild it, but I can sort of imagine it. I can see it clearly in an exhibit such as this. Along with your educational spots around the trail where those artifacts are displayed, this would be sort of a premier spot to say, hey, this is where it was, and that's what it looked like. Moving forward, again, we're getting to that water, something that really weighed heavy on folks back in the comp plan was we want more water access, get us to the water, and here's an opportunity to do that. Now I know it's not the deepest water, you're not getting big boats in there, but it's a fun place to view, observe wildlife, play in the water, perhaps fish, if there's fish in there, and I heard otherwise. But tubing certainly seemed to be a favorite with the folks that came out to talk to us. What would that look like? Something cantilevered over so that you could view, along with a very broad portion of the boardwalk, such that it's a gathering area. It's an area to go out there with classes. It's an area to go out there and just feel like, wow, I live in Harrisburg, and this is cool. So moving on, these things cost money, right? And everything gets more expensive, it seems, day by day. There's no way to know without a crystal ball. And this is such high-level planning, there's not been construction documents created yet. So I can't really bid this out to find out, but have the honor of building parks regularly based on these designs for other communities in the area. And based on the bids and the things I'm seeing, if you were to build out that last image, it's going to be around $3.1 million. That could be phased over time. There's certainly funding sources like the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant you could look into, because it does meet that as well. They require things like having at least a quarter-mile of walking path, having at least 3 elements to score a competitive grant. This design kept that in mind so that you would be eligible for that if indeed you decided to go that direction. And with that, that's a lot of information in a small package, but I'll entertain any questions.
So Rob, you see how he speaks quickly and gets through it.
I took notes.
Okay.
I can go over anything again if you need me.
No. I'm saying I like that.
Okay.
That was a compliment to you and something otherwise to me.
Yeah, I appreciate all the effort and going through all the options and going back and forth and everything. I don't know, what did we budget?
There's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
We're not in the millions
So we're
at all.
not in the millions. And you weren't here last week, but last week we're talking about adding like shade structures and more play equipment in the park that's half a mile down the road.
Right.
Yeah, at the boardwalk park. So I guess just my initial thoughts are, like, I love it, but I think I see this place as less of like a recreational park and more of like a place to go visit, because the start of this project was, let's save the mill, and people dragged their feet and we had to tear down the mill because it was rotting. And so it literally is our last kind of historic remnant in town. We saved the post office, there's some old homes, but that's kind of like about it, right? So it'd be nice to see the mill more of a focal point as well. I'm not sure the playground structures like fit that park. Maybe they belong where we're talking about putting new ones up there. And this is more of a relaxing park, a place for walking trails, a place to reflect on the history, and less of oh my God, there's 500 kids here and they're all screaming, right? And I'm not against the water structures in that, but it's like, hey, we've got water here. Let's go send them down to the water. Let them scream there as opposed to to the shade structures. Engage I love the mill idea. Maybe there's a educational piece, every Saturday at 10 a.m. come grist some mill, right, and take it home and bake some bread or something like. I don't know the attorneys can figure that stuff out on safety. But if that's sort of a possibility, and I tell you what I really do like is the sort of meeting space. We're just lacking that in town completely, and maybe that gets incorporated a little more. I have a lot of comments. We can talk later. This has kind of been my baby for a while, and I've just I really want to preserve the mill and what that is. So as much engagement that we can get with that historic piece, the better. But without forgetting the feedback that we did get. But that's just kind of my general thoughts on the project, and we can't afford it, but we'll talk about that later.
I don't know if anybody else has anything, but I passed out a concept 4 that I rushed through this weekend, just anticipating some of the comments and conversations of this, because obviously 3.2 million is a lot. And if we think of how we kind of went through this project, we started with a couple of concepts, both independent of each other. We then had our public meetings. We put all of those concepts, because just the kind of way we operate here is we never really want to let go of anything. We just want to do everything. And so we've got this little site, and it starts off as a historic mill site, and we see all these cool things on a concept, so then we overlay both of them. And then on top of that, there's 2 or 3 things that I really wanted to see out here, based on our Parks and Rec master plan and this particular site. So then we had a boardwalk in, and we had that community space, which I heard Mayor Pro Tem Glover talk about earlier, about we just don't have this community space. And I've heard several other council members and our county partners and everybody, we really need another space that isn't this council chambers to have stuff at. And in addition to that, this is a historic site which really needs some indoor space to preserve some of these things that we have down there in storage containers now. So we're gonna have to display these things and be able to show folks the history. So keeping the budget in mind and some of the other things that we've worked on as we've worked on this simultaneously with additional play structures and other things right down the road at Farm Mill. This is a minimalist look that kind of preserves those major things in the site, some walking paths, nature walking paths, access to the river via kayak launches, boardwalk, stuff like that. And then you'll see on your sheet, number 3 and number 1, are that historic foundation and looking glass structure and whatever we could do in there as far as just signage and storytelling, separated with a plaza that abuts a working water wheel and a history museum that could double as a community space, with the thought being we could pump water from the river and actually have a working wheel there that we could show and operate via, again, if we contract with the historian, or this is something that we want to do in-house, but to really be able to do some of the things Councilman Patrick mentioned, where you can, go down and grist some mill, or maybe you can't go home and bake bread with it via the attorneys, but at least you could take it home and throw it at your brother or sister or something like that. But really preserving just that space and moving it all down close to the water, as close as we can, knowing that, we've got some floodplain and floodway issues that we'd have to do some grading and things in there. But getting folks down to do those 3 main things that came up in the history narrative, which is, what are the 3 main things here? It was a gathering place, it was a working mill, and it was access to water. So those were the 3 things that I tried to capture after taking all the feedback, after looking at our, I would love to do everything here, but all of these things kind of compete with the other parks that we have going and with the financial resources that we have. So if I had to narrow it down, that's what I've passed out is, if we were going to go to the next step and focus on something more concise, I think this is the way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. So,
thank our staff and McGill for doing all of this on the weekend and this morning to get this to us.
Jim Ford.
Yes.
So So great presentation. Question though, is there an opportunity, recognizing our financial constraints, is there like a simulation for us to like play with and see what falls within our budget?
Sure.
Like,
It
for
would
those
require a little
features?
bit of a phasing exercise. I can certainly.
Wait, does that
work with
cost
Jim.
us more? I'm so
Is
serious.
it long? It won't take too long.
Okay,
We'll have
never
to get
mind.
that wish
Never
list
mind.
to figure out what goes in.
Just an idea.
Yeah,
Rob.
well, I think you can kind of do it like I did. And
Yeah,
and you have a cost estimate in this presentation, and each item is costed out. Now, there's some overlap to those things, like grading would go massively down with a smaller grading scope. But you can look at there and see, what does the play structure cost? It's $500,000. Do you put $500,000 in a play structure that you're going to put right down the street, or do you save that 500 on a project like this and say we can deal with a very nice meeting space, museum, and preserved mill area with access to the water and still have everything except for that? Or again, if you blow it out, we're probably closer to 3.5, 4 million when all is said and done.
I think I'm with Ian on this. Like if we didn't have the playground area just down the street that we're actually expanding, gonna make even better and greater. I don't see this as needing to have the playground, but should, 15, 20 years from now, there's gonna be a greater need, there's all that space, and we kind of have these renderings that we can start leveraging.
But I think it's easy to look at the cost of that building, the cost of the mill renovation, the cost of the boardwalk, and then you can kind of add some parts and pieces to that, cut the parking lot in half. But like those interactive water features that were up, higher on this plan, or I guess to the bottom of the page, if you're looking at most of the concepts, those can certainly go in a plaza area, budget. If we have enough budget in there to accommodate for that. But it just really comes down to what do you want the site to be. It can be the concept that we all came up with, which I think is a good concept. It's just a lot to it, and it does I think just knowing who we are as a town, it will transform the site from primarily a historic site to primarily a park. If we have a nice playground there, a lot of people won't even know the mill is there. If we put the water features up near the parking lot, kids aren't going to be allowed to go down by the creek. So I think it's a matter of just understanding the community that you have and putting the things deliberately in the right spots.
Well, and I also want to say that, programmatically, that building is so badly needed.
Yes.
We used to have art classes here, but, since we've expanded and here we've lost some space, we can't do the art, the Lego summer camps, those things are really difficult. We don't have that space. And further, we get, I don't know how many calls Kathleen gets at the office a week asking for lease space. They want to have a small shower or a birthday party. We just don't have those opportunities. So, when we met in July and kind of came up with that idea of that building, Rob really kind of pushed that. I thought that was great because we don't, that's something we don't have. And it's something I think would be really important, so.
I don't know, thematically, seems a little wild while you're looking back at history. You have some kid falling off the monkey bars in the background, and you're trying to learn your town's history. And then I'm curious about funding. We don't want to put bumper stickers all over it, but is there a chance for underwriting from one of our great partners in town? If they can get their name discreetly at the bottom of the entry door to the museum or something, that they, plowed in $50,000 to help us out. But yeah, this just seems a lot cleaner. Like, what am I going for? Am I going with my bathing suit and flip-flops, or am I going in here to read a book or go to a wedding shower? But this seems cleaner. And I like the idea. I think if I get this conceptually, that building number 3 would also have artifacts or display or a picture on the wall, or furniture in keeping with the time, or lighting that looks like, what they would have at that time. There's a chance to really do that structure 1, 4, and 3 right and plow the money into that. I don't think anybody's gonna scream if we don't have one more sliding board. I mean, if we put it up, you're right, they'll come. They'll be out there with a sack lunch and 5 kids and the anthill. Will, you know. And
New
so-
Way Hill.
But, you know, like you said, in the future, 12 years from now, if they want to go put all that in, there's plenty of land.
Well, we should, to that point, we could do it later, but like, let's set the tone for what it is.
That's right.
Right now. Like, this is about the mill and the water.
Right.
And the meeting space and gathering space. The piece of property lends itself to be just more calming, right? It's in the woods, really great if you
It's
haven't been
beautiful.
out there.
A little reverence.
The flow of the, you know, it's very sensory out
Yep.
there. And we, you know, we talked about in the comp plan earlier, you know, you want people to have diversity of options too. And we have the ball fields and the play structures and we have all that, but we don't have like, okay, I'm gonna go take a book and a cup of coffee that I picked up on the way and just go sit in nature by the water and read, right? I mean, we just don't offer that anywhere here. And we have the opportunity, I think we should take it.
Yeah, and that's why I like that on this simplified plan, you've preserved the boardwalk to allow people to really enjoy taking the views, the water, and, you know, maybe we could have some benches there and so forth.
But we also know that in our Parks and Rec master plan, the top 3 things that people wanted was outdoor space, right? Walking, trails. There were, one, right?
Water access.
Water access, yeah. So this obviously fits within that plan.
Is
Jim?
there,
Oh, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, is there a way to connect in the future to the existing park, or is there some properties in between that we can?
Well, interesting question. So,
Oh.
so, you know, I think the most important thing about this site is the mill. The second most important thing is the water access. I would put the meeting space third. And that's because this water, you know, as you're looking at it here, flows left to right and goes to Farm Mill Park. So if this were to be built and we basically cleared out a receiving area at the current Farm Mill Park, we could operate the second Blue Way in the county. There is one out in Mount Pleasant where you could launch a kayak from here and end in Farm Mill Park, and they actually kind of horseshoe around, so they're not that far from each other. Roadway access is tough out here. People tend to go about 300 miles an hour on Farm Mill Road, but they're not driving through the river yet. And so I think that is something that I think is really special about this design and this location.
Yep.
Left-hand Jim, since we have 2 Jims up there. You said you may be able to do a cost analysis with a little bit of time, but this is very specific, so I'm hoping it wouldn't take you too long to say, well, if you did this plan, then this, okay.
If I can get a list of your priority items, like you just mentioned, just confirm that, and we can start from there.
Yeah. And then along this path, if there were monuments or benches or, you know, natural shade, we don't have to build shade there. I don't know if there's trees out there for people just to sit out there and read a book, you know. Parking lot seems right to accommodate that building. And I don't know what the revenue stream would be on the Jones family reunion. Do we charge for that, or
Yes,
is that
just like we do with the outdoor shelters.
de minimis, or is there any kind of revenue associated with that?
Well, that, and because that's indoors, and that would probably draw a little better
We'd set our own
revenues.
rate on
Yeah.
that. And honestly, you'd have to set a rate that is appropriate, otherwise the thing's gonna be booked up 3 years in advance.
Well, that's
Okay.
how the barn is at Frank List.
Yeah.
And thanks, Jim, because he helped. We were trying to find a location for something in the community. And I think during the week at Frank List, it was $400 for the whole day for the whole barn. And they are literally booked 2.5 years out. It was actually kind of a miracle that we got it for that Thursday for an event. But it is constantly booked out. So I don't think we would have much trouble
No, that,
filling that time as well.
350 days a year it'll be booked.
So if we did a pro forma that said, you know, you're gonna sink this cost in, and in 2.5 years, you're recouping X, I assume this needs HVAC and all those things too, so, yep.
Yeah, so I think our next steps would be to go back I don't think there's anybody that thinks we should go smaller or less than the handout that I did. I think that's kind of where we're at, and do some cost analysis on this, and have some one-on-ones with y'all on, are there elements that were really important to you that you want us to cost out and put in here? But I think there's some details in this that are the next phase, right? And we bring back more of a detailed engineering process before you of, where do benches go? What type of material are on these paths? What does this boardwalk look like? Is it wood? Is it Trex? Is it concrete foundations? How much grading do you have? There's a lot of very detailed things, including the building design, interior design, artifact displays, size of that building. It's currently spec'd at the same size as the building we've done our retreat in several times, so that's the footprint to have a similar building like that. But how big is that plaza? How far is that distance away? Those are all things that are just really conceptual now.
I pulled up because a resident sent us an email this morning clipping the priorities from the parks, and the top three were paved connectivity trails for bikes and pedestrians, neighborhood parks, and natural/conservation areas. And I think this fits that bill.
Absolutely.
It's all of them.
Yeah.
What does it look like in that floodway area?
Pretty much all those pictures that I was showing you showed where you have some undulated land, where you want to go back and look at that. It's rocks. It's a lot of rocks. It's down trees. It's things that have floated from the water up, and it's things that have been exposed through erosion over the years. So it's rocky. Now moving in closer to, there you go. See all the rocks? I mean, some of that's old foundation, I imagine, from the mill. Some of that is apparently been chiseled on, and some of it's concrete. Very little of that. It's mostly natural boulders. The sandbars move. From last September to this September, I've seen those sandbars move around quite a bit, too. So that changes over time.
I'm just wondering about putting structures down there in that floodway.
Well, you can't really.
You really can't.
Yeah, I mean, our boardwalk and stuff can be down there, but when we talk about the buildings and things like that, it takes some grading. We're gonna have to make sure that those are not in a floodway.
Yeah, because it looks like all three of those, 1, 4, and 3, it looks like all that is located in floodway on that.
Yeah,
We'll have to get it up.
they're shown a typical floodway and floodplain, but that would all have to be part of it. But you can develop in a floodplain. You just need a permit for it.
And we can be, it's called Rocky River for a reason. Just leave the rocks. People will sit on those.
Oh, yeah.
Kids will play on them. Just leave them.
Yeah.
They're just fine.
Are there
Would
any other-
building number 3, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
one last structural question, structural guy. Would building number 3 be a candidate to build up on stilts in that floodplain and maybe even get a little character, to get it up a little higher?
We potentially, more than likely, there would be like a grading with like a stone retaining wall
It's gotta be
in an area
ADA.
like that to kind of fit into the
And gotta
area.
be ADA compliant,
And you'd have a nice overlook.
On ramp?
yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, as we've been basically talking, well, we do need direction from you folks as to how you want to proceed. Rob mentioned already we've gained some of that tonight, but, get with, I guess, Rob, you're going to meet with her, whatever, gather it and.
Yeah, I think our follow-up will be, start with this, the minimalist plan, and then cost that out, meet individually with each person here on, we'll give you guys a copy of the presentation if you don't have it already, and therefore you'll have that cost estimate and be able to see those things and say, hey, I like this is important to me, what does this cost? Or you might weed that out yourself, and then we can build up from there.
Yep. The idea would be if we can get this thing going, we get it back here in November so we can get a formal design opportunity into McGill's hands, and we can get rolling. So, just kind of up to you folks. Let us know which direction we need to go.
Do we need anything formal? Sounded good to me.
No, I don't think we need anything formal. I'm assuming the council wants us to move with pace on this, so we're gonna do that unless you guys want to kick this to the budget process
Not
in
again.
spring.
Not
so.
again.
Not again.
That's what I thought, so that's, we're all on the same page.
Good.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Jim Square,
Thank
for
you.
the presentation.
Thank you,
So
Jim.
appreciate it
Thank you
tonight.
all.
And now has come the time for public comment. We do have about 9 folks signed up to speak tonight, and we have a pretty lengthy discussion under new business later. So I will call you up individually. If speakers could limit their conversation to 3 minutes. I am going to go a little out of order here because a majority of the folks are here to talk about the Greenway. Brett Crosby, is it okay if I have you come up first? Because I think you're going to give a Y update, and I know you've got to head back upstairs. So just be sure to state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Brett Crosby, 4100 Main Street, Suite 200 upstairs. I'll start off with some sad news first. This is your last council meeting with the screen shaking and the sounding like thunder in the background. So we are really close to getting our new YMCA open. As of right now, we're planning to send out our dates on Wednesday for our moving out and moving in plans. So keep an eye on social media for Wednesday, and we'll get that out, barring any last-second curveballs. So we're super excited to bring the new YMCA to Harrisburg. It's been a long time coming, as you all know. We'll roll right into basketball season as we get going, so we'll have the town basketball rolling in. High school swim teams will be coming right after that around the same time as well. So we're super excited. I think we're going to roll busy. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for the Y already, we're doing no join fee right now. Town of Harrisburg residents get a 15% discount. And we can't wait to see you in the new Y in a very short few weeks. So we'll keep an eye out for Wednesday. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett, for the update. Yay. Finally. All right, we'll go back up to the top. So we have Jim Eskew.
I'm the next Jim speaker for tonight.
It's a popular name tonight.
Hopefully I can match the enthusiasm of the other two. Oh, thank you.
Looks like Congress.
It's big, it's beautiful. All right, so Jim Eskew, 8010 Wacomi Court, on behalf of Friends of Harrisburg Greenways. If you haven't heard about us yet, we are a 501c3. We have over 150 followers on Facebook, and our mission is just to support and promote greenways in Harrisburg. So why do we exist? It's already come up a couple times tonight, but you can see here that this is taken directly from the Parks and Rec master plan. The top item here that people asked for, paved connectivity trails for bikes and pedestrians. Number 1 requested item, it was chosen as one of the top 4 requested items more frequently than anything on the list. So another way to look at this data here, and I tried to blow this up, but it's still an eye chart, right? And I did send this, emailed it to you earlier. If you're not familiar with the PIR score, I wasn't either, but basically that is a combination of how many people requested an item and how important it was to them. So again, you see, here's all the items, so blue is medium priority. Here you'll see items like pickleball. I love pickleball. Everyone I know who's played loves pickleball, but what people love even more are, again, paved connectivity and walking paths. So, and this isn't my data. This is the town's data. This was adopted by council in September last year. This isn't generic like any town USA. This is Harrisburg's. This is what Harrisburg people wanted. It's what your constituents have asked for. So We need your help to align investment with these priorities. And you'll have the opportunity to do that tonight. What else? So Saturday we had our fundraiser at Chill Dogs. We appreciate everybody who braved the rain to come out for that. They've been a great partner. On Friday, October 10th, we have a fundraiser at Cookie Co. Over there by the Publix. So grab a cookie, buy whole box, and support a local business and support us. We have a story walk coming up here in partnership with the Friends of the Library. If you're not familiar with what a story walk is, it's an outdoor activity. You can walk along the Greenway, and children with their parents can read a storybook a page at a time as they journey along the path. So that would be on the Fuda Creek Greenway in Churchill Farms, September 15th through 30th. Really excited about that. And then Miss Amanda, the children's librarian at Harrisburg Library, will be doing a guided walk on Tuesday, September 16th at 10:30 a.m. So mark your calendar for that. We'll put out some social media, so you can put it on a calendar. And finally, we're putting together some information about grants that we think the town might be eligible for. So we're working hard on that, and we'll deliver that to the appropriate town staff, so we can be sure not to miss out on any funding that could come our way. So I think that's all I have time for, so I'll let others speak, but we have stickers, we have magnets available to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, we have Brett Simone. The pen trailed off at the end, so I apologize if I have butchered your last name. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brett Semino, 8471 Plantation Way. I've been a resident there for almost 33 years and love the town of Harrisburg, love the park and all that. I'm here to represent the Friends of Greenway, Harrisburg Greenways, and thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate the prayer. One of the things that was stated when we're talking about the Far Mill area there was the quality of life. And I want to speak a little bit about the quality of life for Greenways. In 2020, when we all had to deal with COVID, I was told to go work from home, and my wife was as well, and so we started walking. I lost 47 pounds, but even more so, I got off most of my medications for being a type 2 diabetic.
Wow.
Okay. Unfortunately, I had to go back into the office. My profession was director of engineering at a global company. But anyway, the deal was that stress levels, work levels, getting home, just didn't have time to walk anymore. Well, I'm glad to announce that April 1st I retired and I'm back on track for walking again. My wife and I walked over 5 miles today on a Concord Greenway. But until I met Jim and got involved in this group, I really didn't know about the Harrisburg Greenways. But now I've walked on all of them. I love walking at Farm Mill as well for a quick walk. And so I appreciate what the community is doing for my health, but the quality of life of everyone. And so I hope that you'll keep it up and understand that our group is here to help, not complain, not gripe, but help as much as we can to improve the quality of life of all the individuals of Harrisburg. That's all I have. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Leek.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, city, or town employees, excuse me. Get city and town mixed up. All right, Bill Leek, 7238 Sandown Court. I want to express my concerns about the possibility of pickleball at Farm Mill Park. It is a passive park, and my concern is if we open that door and we start allowing stick and ball activities in the park, and if they are popular and there's a lot of demand for it, will we have pressure for more pickleball courts? And then next thing we're cutting down trees and we're moving that parking lot up to Farm Mill Road. So, we kind of lose the ambiance of Farm Mill Park. Now, I know we need these things. I was looking at some satellite imagery. It looks like at Stallings Park, to the right of if you're looking at the park, the ball field on the right, there's a little bit of space between there and the stormwater measure there. pop a couple pickleball courts in there, possibly. So I want to entertain, maybe we look at putting pickleball on our sports facility parks that, you know, are already cleared. Try to limit how much trees we remove on our passive parks. And I had some other ideas, but then I saw the presentation about Farm Mill, Grist Mill. What if we tied the two parks together? If you can't get everything down there at the creek, what if Jim's big building or something set at the park instead of a pickleball court? You tied it in, your kids come to school, one bus goes down there, one bus goes to this park. 30, 40 minutes, boom, the buses change. You got your boats, now you can ride your boats from park to park. And they can go on down their boats and go onto the Concord Parkway down, the Greenway down there. Possibility, keeping them both passive but tied together. Looking at our active stick and ball type things in facilities that are built for that. Maybe the Holcomb Woods property down there, I don't know. I don't know a lot about ball. I know the kids that I don't go to I know all the fields are probably overblown and we ain't got enough room for them too, but I just wanted to mention that. It was all I had. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Ellen Ivers.
Hi, Mayor, Council. My name is Ellen Ivers. I live at 7712 Orchard Park Circle. I've lived in neighborhoods off of Tom Query for about 15 years, and tonight just wanted to express my support for the rail trail item that is going to be coming up tonight. You know, since we've lived in that area, we've always said it'd be so great if there was a trail behind the neighborhoods that would connect everything on Tom Query to the park. And now with the Y opening and the library, just the opportunity for kids, you could ride your bike to soccer, ride your bike to the library. My family personally never goes to the 4th of July celebration because we are so close to the park, yet we have to park at the raceway and bus in. We can see the fireworks kind of through the trees. We could walk to that with those options, all those families, Huntwick, Camelot, Windsor Forest. So I just wanted to voice, you know, just like Jim said, connectivity, being able to access the facilities that we have easily and allowing like our kids to grow up in a community where they can get to things themselves and we can support their independence and allow them to exercise and get to their activities. So that's all. Just wanted to
Thank you, Ms. Ivers.
Thank you.
Wally Wallace.
Oh, I only got one page.
Don't forget to state your name and address for the record.
Wally
We should
Wallace?
all admit we have it memorized, but
Wally Wallace, 30193 Spring Forest Road, Harrisburg, North Carolina, 28075. Well, I'm not like some of these people. You know, I guess I'm the newbie on the block because I haven't lived here 15 years or 33 years. I've only lived here 4 years, okay? But what I wanted to talk about tonight was economic development. Kind of goes along with the presentation you had earlier tonight. One of the things I felt like that needed to be emphasized is the engagement plan they refer to. It needs to be detailed, okay, specific, not just saying we're going to talk to the community, all right? In the economic development group, you know, that was one of the things I emphasized in getting it out to where it needed to be. Talking about the town and identity of the town, do we have a motto? Do we have a slogan? You know, I come from a little town called Hot Springs, Arkansas, and there we bathe the world.
love it.
Hot Springs, hot baths, okay? So what do we have? We have Rob Dorn, okay? That would be a great slogan, wouldn't it? All right? No, I'm just joking, Rob, okay? But what do we have? We talk about identity of the community and they think about it. What do we have, okay? And so as a result, those are just my thoughts. Not even 3 minutes worth, Rob.
Thank you, Wally.
I gotta head to go get one of them baths. It must be quite the place.
Kimberly, I'm not going to be able to say that last name. Knifer.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Knifer. Like I said, usually it's guesses to Nefer, but Knifer it is. I'm at 8483 Plantation Way in Harrisburg. I'm here representing or with the Friends of the Greenways as well. I thought you've already heard the statistics. They're your statistics. You already know them. what you may not have heard is my experience specifically with the Greenways. I know that when I go to Farm Mill, it is so peaceful. And it's not even that it's not crowded. I'm so happy that everybody uses it. And it's the nice people that I pass that always say, "Good morning, it's nice to see you." Even the dogs are nice to me, which is somewhat a surprising thing. But on top of that, as a mother, my children are in one of the Cub Scout groups here in the community. Tonight, actually, they are over on the Mills Greenway hiking. And I can tell you that the favorite activity from last year was a bike rally they did at Farm Mill along the Greenway Trail. I've never seen those kids so excited, and I've also never seen that many fancy bikes for little kids. But it was amazing, and it's the type of thing that I am so excited that you're discussing tonight about expanding on, because Harrisburg has these beautiful spaces. We have Harrisburg Park, where a lot of money has been spent to make that a gathering place, a celebration place, a place to have fun for families, for individuals, for seniors, for everybody. And I love seeing that you're expanding on it to make it possible for more people to get there. For the kids that maybe their parents are still working in the office, unfortunately, and they want to go to the park in the afternoon, but they just can't get there. That rail trail is going to make a difference in their lives. That's going to be the memory they have going over, going under the railway, either way, to get to an amazing park that's available to them. So thank you so much for your consideration. I hope that you will be in support of it like we are, and thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Mira Frisch, and if I said that wrong, I'm so sorry.
You said it right. I'm Mira Frisch at 5308 Harvest Hill Drive in the Orchard Park neighborhood. And I'm here also to speak in support of anything you can do to expand our greenways, and in particular that rail connector that you're talking about. I'm a mom of 3 kids here in Harrisburg, and my husband and I love to take our children for bike rides. That's probably our favorite pastime. My husband and I were expecting our first child back in 2012. We originally moved to the Charlotte area back in 2007 to teach as professors at UNC Charlotte, so we've been in Charlotte for a while. But when we were expecting our first child, we were looking for some place to settle down. And the only reason why we hesitated to buy our house and settle down in Harrisburg was because Harrisburg didn't have those connected greenways like Charlotte and like some of the other communities had. And we really had to think twice about whether we could live here without that. And of course, we ended up here. But the one thing that we have really regretted not having since coming here was a greenway that connects one park to another and that makes it safe for our family to leave our house on a bike and go as far as we want to go and get a lot of exercise. So we're so happy that you're considering this, and we just wanted you to know, I don't know a family in Harrisburg who wouldn't be so thankful to have more greenway, and especially this safety issue over the rail. I heard that there are some children unfortunately going over the rail right now on their bikes or as pedestrians, and I just hope we can act before there's some horrible tragedy that we all regret. Thank you.
Thank you, Mira. And last, we have Jim Fairchild.
Hi, I'm Jim Fairchild. I've lived in Harrisburg for 33 years. Seems to be the common thing here. My address has been 9541 Millen Drive, and that will not be my address in January or February, as I'll be moving to Stillhouse Lane in Harrisburg. We're moving about 2 miles. And one of the reasons that we're picking that place is because of the connectivity that appears to be in the plans on that with the greenways and things. I've always been a fan of the Rails to Trails Conservancy, been involved supporting them as well. The Forest City Spindale Thermal Belt Trail, that has really increased local businesses, and if you go on that trail, you just see people smiling and roller skates and everything. It's really a neat thing. So anything that we can do to connect communities or parks and things, I think is a great thing. And I love the Blue Way comment that was made earlier about the kayaks, because that's my other vice, I guess, bicycles and kayaks. But anyway, anything we can do, count me in, and hopefully we'll be able to utilize me somehow in making these things and expediting them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate everyone coming out to speak tonight. We will move into, where are we now? Consent agenda. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you so much. We will start with our town manager communication updates. Rob?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've been very patient for an hour and 20 minutes waiting to get to my part, so I'll wrap it up in roughly an hour. I'll cut it down, but I have a lot to say tonight, and I have a captive audience, so nobody's allowed to leave. Lock the doors. I've got everybody here.
3 minutes, Rob.
Reminder that this Thursday evening we have a UDO webinar. Check our website and socials for that, but I would encourage the folks in the room here this evening, anybody at home, anybody at all that cares about development in Harrisburg. We are updating our Unified Development Ordinance, and this is your opportunity to have input on that governing ordinance as it relates to development. So if a new development goes in, we do currently have Greenway regulations in there and open space regulations. If you'd like to see what those are or like to impact those, plug in and have your say. So quick shameless plug there. Also, I wanted to go back to the comp plan presentation that we had earlier and remind everybody to engage in that. So from a community standpoint, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for engagement. We'll be out in your neighborhoods physically, coming out to HOAs and meeting halls and Lions clubs all over the place. We'll also have social media activity, we'll have survey activity, we'll have webinars, and then we'll have public meetings here. So there really should be no scenario where you're not able to engage. We'll even have pop-ups at our events. So at Rockin' the Berg and at different events throughout the community, we'll be there, but you really do have to engage to be heard on this. So tell everybody that you know. It will be crucial that you get involved, and that through that process we'll be able to kind of plan our future intentionally, and we'll be able to do that together through all the different groups that we have. Greenways are a great example of that, but we also have folks that care only for youth athletics. We have some people that care only about jobs and the economy. We have some that just care about schools. That's okay. If you care about one thing, come and talk about that one thing, and leave the rest to everybody else. We'll cover public safety, development, transportation, growth, jobs, education, you name it. It's going to be discussed as part of that plan, and it's going to be a year and a half long of just getting this conversation going and getting everything put together, updating all of our plans. We currently have a Greenway plan. That's going to need updated, right? We've got lots of neighborhoods that have come in. We have a transportation plan. That's a little closer to being up to date. But I think you even saw as part of the presentation we had earlier on the comp plan, we've updated our goals several times along these different plans and getting the right things together. So just a reminder to anybody and everybody out there that wants to impact their community, this is the most impactful, this will be the biggest chance to be the most impactful in a short period of time that any of our residents will ever get. So don't miss out on that. On our another update on our economic development side of things, I just wanted to give as quick an update as I can, but as we've kind of moved through the last few years, we've taken this renewed focus on economic development, and we've also taken a renewed focus on reducing the number of housing developments that we have. So we have been able to slow the pace of housing But we've also been able to increase that pace of commercial and industrial throughout the town to kind of keep the economic pace about the same. A couple of updates on that front. We are in a pre-application phase with Atrium Health at Rocky River for a 3-story hospital tower out there. So you'll see that on our development map popping up. If the plans aren't already on there, they will be added there soon. We're also in discussions with Pruitt Health out here on Rocky River, also pre-application phase there. So really seeing the healthcare community lean into Harrisburg from an economic development standpoint. We also have some items on the agenda tonight and have put some things on the agenda over the past year for the Moorhead West area. So that's everything from Moorhead West, very innovative name there, but Moorhead Road west to the county line. That's an area that is not sewered. We don't have water connection. We don't have roadway connection, but is a huge opportunity for us from an economic development standpoint. So we're continuing to look at those sewer and roadway investments. The sewer is on for this evening to get that plan, or to get the engineering plans updated so that we can move into that phase, and I won't steal all the thunder from that early on in the meeting here. But we've also approved and gotten grants for the Caldwell Road extension to add the transportation access that we need in there. As part of that, we've been discussing internally, what else do we need in that area as far as utilities? Do we add the water and the storm sewers and the things like that as we move into there? And then ultimately, we're also looking at a site readiness program that Ryan has been able to set up so that site is ready for any big development that comes through the state EDC and is looking into Harrisburg, so that we are really prepped and practiced and know how to land a nice investment in that area. We've already seen the 1010 Motor Club out there move into that area, where we were all able to go to the Cabarrus Summit and experience that facility, which is just first rate. Hendricks Motorsports has also invested into this area coming down Moorhead as they've kind of filled out their space north of 29. All of their future investment is really looking in the Harrisburg and the Moorhead West area. And we expect the rest of that to fill up with research and development type businesses. We've discussed some folks that provide services, but also would bring significant tourism into Harrisburg. And then ultimately the rest of it with employment and diversification of tax base in that area. So that's an area that I'd say keep your eyes on, but we're already starting to see small investment in there, and we expect that to grow exponentially over the next year or so. The second largest area that we have is the Rocky River corridor area, specifically the Farmington 485 interchange area. We continue to see strong interest in development out there, as well as redevelopment along, especially near the interchange. Keep your eye on the development map there for things that come along that are in the pre-application phase. But it is typical redevelopment, and then we've seen the development interest out there, really the quality kind of raise as of late, so we anticipate that to continue, as well as we've had some questions all along that corridor this month that I kind of had to field with some miscommunication on what is planned out there and what are the land uses. So again, this is something that's easy to look up. Just get on our website. Whatever the current land use plan is the land use plan. It's really as simple as that. We don't have to have lots of conversations about it or speculation. Everything that is planned is on paper and is on the website, so feel free to pull that up. Now, as we go through our long-term comprehensive plan, that land use plan at that point will be subject to input from the residents. It's been a while since we've really looked at a comprehensive look at all of our land use, and we will do that as part of the comp plan. But as of now, we have the same commercial plans out there that we've had for the entirety of the Harrisburg area land use plan. Last but not least, I wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Wally over here, who asked me while I was working on something via email today about some grants, and and things that we were working on. So I put our grant summary together, and I won't read each and every one of these out loud, but some of the significant grants, I've given updates on this usually every year, and you guys have seen this, and we've had some new developments over the last year or so that really haven't hit the list. But I'd say, some of our significant grants that I want to draw some attention to and really adds up in a big way. Hickory Ridge Road Pedestrian Greenway, where we have the open house going on with that. And, that's a 1.6, almost $1.7 million grant that staff received on that project. That was state and federal funds that we're able to acquire. The NC 49 Congestion Access Management, that's a $7.4 million grant. We also have matching funds associated with that. Both sides of the road there, again, we're adding 10-foot wide multi-use paths that connect our communities throughout the town. The Caldwell Road extension, which we talked about earlier, the Roberta Road roundabout, these are all projects that connect our community and that otherwise we'd have to pay for with tax dollars. Some interesting ones like YMCA that was here this evening. We went and lobbied for the YMCA, and we also have local funding in that because of the 2 gymnasiums that we have attached to that we will program. We went and lobbied and got state direct allocation, $8 million for the YMCA. If not for the mayor going to Raleigh and getting that funds, those are $8 million that our residents would have to come up with, the Y would have to come up with, or the town tax dollars would have to come up with in order to make that project a reality. It's a $25 million investment going into the middle of our signature park that our entire community will be able to experience. And that's not a grant directly to the town, but it's a grant the town got for one of our partners. Another grant that we got a portion of, the sewer issues that we have, the sewer plant expansion, that's a $70 million plant expansion. We were a co-signer on that lobbying effort to go to Raleigh to get that $70 million. We're about 11% of that plant, so our direct allocation to the town is about $7.7 million in grants for our sewer expansion. If we weren't successful in that goes to the ratepayers. In order to have that same expansion, we would just need to see water rates and sewer rates go up in order to cover that. So again, not sent directly to the town, it's sent to a partner organization that we're a part of, but our part of that is $7.7 million. And then the NC Rail MOU that we had signed in 2022, 2023 secured the original commitment of $6 million that they were dedicating to that project. And again, that's a long-term or a long-haul passenger rail to get us and connect us with Atlanta, connect us with Raleigh, and provide that access throughout the state, provide economic development opportunities, as well as just transportation opportunities for our community. All told, all of the grants that we've gotten over the last 4 years amounted to $39,250,000 in either direct grants to us or the benefit received by those lobbying efforts, with a local match of around $4 million. So we're getting almost a 90% share paid for. And what does that mean for the taxpayer in Harrisburg or for the resident? Well, if we look at over that same 4-year period, that equates out to about a 20-cent tax rate each and every year that we've gotten in funds that are not directly allocated to property tax rates. We have a tax rate of 41 cents. We would need to go up to 61 cents to continue to do the same things that we're doing now, if not for our staff's effort in acquiring these grants. And each one of these, takes some time, right? The money's certainly worth it when you're this successful, and our staff getting nearly $40 million in financial assistance for all of our projects is really amazing. But, it does take away from some of the projects and some of the services and some of the things that we do. So I would just ask for, some patience for our staff as we kind of go through these, and I pull them off of things constantly. I know Devin was here maybe a few weeks before I pulled him off of everything that he was working on and asked him to put a train station grant for $9 million that is still pending, and we're waiting for the feds to to give us some idea on that. But we have the train station at 9 million, turf fields at 2.5 million, and another $1 million that we'd asked for the YMCA, all pending, as well as several other small grants. So I wanted to mention that because I think sometimes we just cram through these projects and we look at each and every one of them, and we just get lost in doing the day-to-day, and we don't really take a look back and say, how successful have we been? The amounts that we had before this real initiative to bring in grants were, tens of thousands of dollars, right? From tens of thousands to 40 million is just blown me away, and that has surpassed any type of expectation that we put on our staff for that. So great job with staff, and great job with the community supporting us to get the local matching funds that we needed in order to get those grants. I said last, but I was wrong, Ian, so you got one more second. One final thought. In Friends of the Greenway really needs to be a stakeholder with our comp plan. So I would really suggest you guys reach out to us on how to get involved with that comp plan and make sure that your voices are being heard. The comp plan will update our Greenway plan, and I heard several of our council members mention tonight, how do we stay with that small town feel where everybody knows each other, where we still feel connected, where we still have a high quality of life, where we're continuing that progress. We're not going to tumbleweed, and it's really connecting with each other. And there's lots of ways to do that. One of the ways is Greenways connect us physically. They connect us in our neighborhoods without having to take a specific, let's get in the car, let's drive somewhere, let's make this big event, right? You're all of a sudden just connected with each other physically. The kids can go to other neighborhoods, you can get to your parks, you can get throughout the town without getting in a car and without getting on the main roads. Our events connect us. We invest a lot in our events, and that's where people go and they see each other at the end of a busy week, and they're able to speak with each other and hang out. Our youth sports connects us. It's something that pulls us together and makes us build those memories, and our public spaces connect us. If we don't have public spaces to gather in, where are we going to gather? So I think if you look at tonight's agenda and you look at the totality of what we keep putting in front of you each and every meeting, sometimes it can get mundane, sometimes it can get overwhelming, but I think it really feeds all of these, and I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to mention why we do it. We do it so that we can maintain that small town feel, even though we know we have long left the small town numbers that Harrisburg used to be able to enjoy, and that's difficult. It's difficult to do it. It's difficult to keep the tax rates down while you do it, because it's not inexpensive to maintain that feel. But we're doing it very well, and I would just say that is all because of the dedicated staff that we have. They do an excellent job. They understand their mission, and they stay on it each and every day. So I want to thank them. I want to thank the council for the support on that, and thank our residents for coming and always expressing their heartfelt desires for each and everything that they like about our community. That's it, Mayor.
Are you sure?
I could keep going.
Are there any questions for Rob? All right, next we will have our finance monthly report, and kudos to Brian for managing the $40 million in grants, because that's a lot.
Glad to do it. Good evening. I have your finance report as of the end of August. So here is a look at the revenue and expense dashboard over operations. So you can see tax collections at 2%. That represents motor vehicles that we've collected over the first 2 months. And that feeds into the 6% overall revenue for the general fund. This is very typical, as we see every year, until escrow accounts start making payments on property taxes for real estate. So no concerns there, even though they're shown in red. The water and sewer fund had a pretty big month with an 11% gain, jumping up to 19%, and that reflects the irrigation use throughout August. So that will start to trail off as we go through the winter months. And the stormwater fund is essentially right on track at 16 to 17%. So no concerns over our revenues there. Looking down at the bottom of the slide, departmental expenditures over operations. All of the general government departments here range in a tight window from 16 to 19%, so they're all on track, and no concerns there. Same story across all remaining general fund departments. With Parks and Rec, actually already pulling back into the yellow this year after the July 4th celebration, so good news there. And you will see one department at only 1%, that is our deputies, which are contracted through the county. And so we pay that bill quarterly, and so that might sneak its way into next month's report, but no concern seeing that at 1% this year. The water and sewer fund is at 15%, and the stormwater fund also at 15%, so both on track there. And salaries town-wide are right on target at 17% this year as we sit 2 months through the fiscal year. Now moving on to our project dashboard, this is a look at our single year projects. So the first one here is the warning light at Fire Station number 3. The design for this project has been approved by NCDOT, and that is a pretty monumental thing to have happen on any of our projects. So the one remaining thing to do before we move into construction here is easement for the telephone pole that will go across the street from the station. So once that gets worked out, we'll be ready to move into the construction phase. The next is the wayfinding sign replacements. Concrete footings have been completed all around town. One that you may have noticed and seen covered over the past week or two is right in front of the Lowe's Foods Shopping Center. I saw that and didn't know quite what it was until I asked Devin and John, so they let me know what that was. But those signs will start to get mounted over the next couple weeks, and that'll be wrapped up soon. Next is our ADA sidewalk program. This project will mainly take place in Kensington Forest, removing trip hazards on the sidewalks. And this is a pretty quick-hitting project that should only take a couple weeks to wrap up. And then lastly on this slide is the artificial turf at Harrisburg Park that Rob mentioned a little earlier. We have an RFQ out right now, and we've had about 7 vendors who have notified us that they intend to propose on this. We actually got some proposals in today as well. So we have really good interest in the project, and we have a quick schedule to turn those around into construction documents and get them moving through the winter season so that we have 2 very nice turf fields for our spring athletics. Now moving over to our multi-year projects in design. The first here is pedestrian facility on Oakley Drive. The survey was completed last month, and the design is underway and progressing pretty quickly at about 25%. This is done in-house with our engineering team, so they will complete these plans and then move straight into construction. Next is the Back Creek Greenway and Trailhead. Popular topic tonight. Design is complete and the construction contract is on the agenda for consideration tonight. So with that, we'll shift this over to the construction page for next month's report. And I mentioned this last month, but just wanted to get one more reminder out there that the Hickory Ridge Sidewalk public input is the 25th of this month at 6 o'clock. So anyone who's interested in weighing in on that project, please join us for that. And now moving over to our multi-year projects under construction. The Highway 49 lighting improvements project has a conceptual design that's been completed by Duke Energy. Duke Energy will also do the actual engineering and design work and then construct it as well. So they have started their process and are about 5% through that project. Here is a look at the landscaping for Veterans Park. So a lot of work has been taking place out there lately. They're about 65% done. Landscaping and concrete has all been done with the stairway and some concrete around the fountain, and now they're working on the waterproofing and enhancements to the fountain. Oops, I think I skipped a little bit. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is our 2025 annual sanitary sewer rehab. There was a lot of work done throughout the neighborhoods that we showed last year with some of the lining of the sewer and the manholes. One of the last pieces of that project is this Abington well generator, and so you see that's been placed there, and that will wrap up that project for this year. Now moving over to our equipment projects, we only have one project this year that has not gotten started, and that is the side-by-side for the deputies. But other than that, everything has been ordered or is progressing nicely. So here we have our Camstrut meter collector antenna. We have a couple of these around town. This one is near our Public Works facility, which will give us a better reach to a part of town that is a little more difficult to collect for our new water meters. And here's our vehicle list for the year. We have one at the bottom that was canceled out due to not qualifying for vehicle replacement with our new vehicle replacement policy, but all others are in some stage of being ordered except for the deputy vehicles, which are the county's responsibility to get those, but we have authorized those from the town side. We have 4 vehicles that are on the agenda for your consideration tonight. They're all water and sewer replacement vehicles. Those did meet the new vehicle replacement policy, and the proposals that you have are well within the budgets. And then lastly, our professional services projects. The 2025 financial audit is going on this very week. So it's done remotely now, but they are definitely in the house this week. We noticed them today. So they're getting everything done. We have a draft of the financial statements ready and are on track to turn those into the state by October 31st. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Can you go back like 3 slides, side by side?
Yes.
Was the completion, yeah, right here?
We had that just by the end of this fiscal year for completion date.
Oh.
It should, you know, I don't want to speak for the county, but once they decide to order that, it should be pretty quick.
Okay, it just seemed
purchase.
like June 30th was a magical date. That's just the end of it.
That's just, yeah, that's just the end of the year.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
We're happy to have Lieutenant Helms with us this evening to give the sheriff's update. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Glad to be here. This is pretty short and sweet. Our law enforcement activities for August totaled a number of 4,102 calls for service, including 1,988 security checks and 925 traffic stops. And our average non-emergency response time was 6 minutes and 14 seconds. One very good thing we did, this is a joint investigation between our the Sheriff's Office Vice Narcotics Unit along with the FBI and Homeland Security. We were able to arrest 2 suspects and remove 10 kilos or roughly 22 pounds of methamphetamine from a residential home in town. And that investigation is still further going for potentially more charges and see where it develops from there. But that is all I have.
That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Lieutenant Helms? Thank you, sir. And we have Assistant Chief Wooten with our fire update tonight. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Management. All right, I get the joy of going through the fire department report. You're lovely. I'm not as energetic, I don't think, as that guy Jim was, but I mean, I can maybe try to see if we can liven it up a little bit. So, first slide's about our fire marshal activities. August is when school starts back, so we start back kind of full throttle in our fire prevention activities. So this month we saw, or this past month, we saw about 1,000 people during our fire prevention activities. We got to partner with the National Night Out with the Sheriff's Office at the arena, where we had over 500 kids at that one. So that was pretty eventful on that. Next thing was our inspection activities. These are normally the same numbers pretty much every month. Y'all kind of probably already figured that out. This picture that we're highlighting in this one is a blocked electrical panel. You're supposed to keep stuff away from the electrical panel in case there's a fire. You need to be able to cut the power off. So we're supposed to keep 3 feet of clearance. So that's just one that we saw to try to at least highlight something on that. Our next slide's, believe it or not, fire extinguishers was not the highest violation this past month. So I was kind of shocked. I was like, what? This one was fire inspection and testing. And that is when we do businesses that may have fire alarm systems or sprinkler systems. Those fire detection systems are required to be annually maintenanced and tested. In this case, he may have gone out and seen a lot of places where they just didn't have that paperwork. So that could have been a violation. Those. As far as our fire stats go, we ran 265 incidents last month. It's 530 unit responses. And then our average dispatch to arrival did increase slightly. We believe that's probably because of the school traffic that comes up, and then also doing all of the fire prevention activities that we do. We're not in our normal station locations, so we're being dispatched from unusual addresses. You'll see that as the uptick on this slide where it shows. Let me slide that up a little bit so I don't hit it every time I do it. The working fires, we had 2 working fires this past month. One of them was caused by a small drop cord that was being used to power a pellet smoker grill. We would always suggest that you try not to use a drop cord and plug directly into an outlet, but if you are going to use a drop cord, how about find one that's a bigger size that's able to handle the load? The other, that was in the Farmington townhomes. The other was assisting Concord Fire Department with a garage fire over in the Skybrook neighborhood over by Concord Mills. Station 2 and Station 3 are dead even this past month, but Station 1's always still the busiest as far as response calls in their area. Again, the number almost didn't even change percentage-wise for the medical calls. I mean, it's always right at around 45%. So good intents and service calls are the other things that we see the biggest increase in. And then again, our heat map, just remember that the red dots are like the frequent flyer type things. That's where we've been there 4 or more times at that one specific point. And it uses the actual lat long of the dispatched address. So that's an accurate, if we've been there more than 4 times to that specific point on a map. So the grays would be, we've been there 2 to 3 calls at that address. And then some of you were there with us for our Enbridge grant that we received for our water rescue team. We received $30,000 for that, which will be used for water rescue equipment to help to support the mission of that team. Also, the building fire that we had that was in our area, we had a $650,000 in savings for that. We only had a $5,000 fire loss. And that was just using that one particular unit, but I think it was one of 4 units, so I could have added the other ones in there too, but I figured that'd probably be a little bit more accurate. And we, again, participated in the Cabarrus County National Night Out, which where all of our partner agencies in the county really showcase and have a great event for the kids, so we really had a good time with that. And with that, I will answer any questions that you might have.
Chief Wooten, I do have a question.
Yeah.
And forgive me for not knowing this until tonight, that the heat map is the same address. So is there any opportunity to connect those residents with whatever service they may need? I know there used to be, the man that would fall a lot.
Yeah, so typically if we have an incident like that where we're out multiple times, if it is something medically related, the county has a community paramedic program, and we will refer them for the community paramedic program with that. If it's something related to fire, or like sometimes as people get maybe near the end of their life, they're having issues like being able to pick them up or something, we'll go out a lot of times for lifting assistance. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens a lot as they're getting older, and honestly, that's a service that we provide, and we're happy to be able to help when we can. So we do try to make sure that we go out to those addresses and try to put them with the right resources to help them with what their needs are. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Especially if it's like fire alarms or keep going off or something, we try to get that corrected through our fire marshal's office so we don't keep going back out there. But
Any other questions? Thank you, Assistant Chief Wooten.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Just a few mayor's comments this evening. I wanted to thank Jennifer and Brian from our engineering department. They actually presented to the Youth Council last month. Thanks to Casey and Nicole for setting that up for that group. They were very engaged. They had a hands-on simulation. I believe it was for water runoff and how development affects all of that. That was kind of fun to sit back and watch. We already covered our fire department grant. Kudos to those folks. That was fun to witness. Rob has already mentioned about the Unified Development Ordinance webinar coming up. We did attend the grand opening and ribbon cutting for Hot Tuna, which is our newest fine dining restaurant right here in Harrisburg Town Center. I really appreciate the investment that Jenny and JJ and Pete have made in our community. They also own Bubba's Monkhouse, and then they will be opening up a bakery that is adjacent to Hot Tuna, so they really have invested in our community. So if you haven't had a chance to visit those, please be sure to patron our local businesses. Last week, we also attended the Cabarrus Economic Development Summit, and that was again at 10 Tenths Motorsport on Moorhead. It's a beautiful facility. We had the opportunity to hear about our North Carolina community colleges and just how they are responding to our workforce needs, not only in our community but across the state. I think it's really important to note that Roa and Cabarrus is actually the 8th largest and the 3rd largest short-term training provider for North Carolina. So they are really providing specific skill sets for these businesses that are coming to our area, which is great. This coming Saturday night is our Rockin' the Berg featuring Absolute Queen, and then our last Rockin' the Berg will be October 11th, and that is the Docksiders. And then next Saturday is the Multicultural Festival on September 20th. That's from 10 to 2 at Harrisburg Park. That's always a great time. This is the 7th year. Hope to see everyone out. And just a reminder that the Cabarrus County Fair is currently going on through the 13th. So that is at the Cabarrus Arena. I believe they have a rodeo addition to that this year. And lastly, I wanted to share some facts about development in our town. I'm kind of going to piggyback on what Rob touched on before. We were so heavy for housing developments for so long that now we have shifted that focus to economic development, but I wanted to put some numbers for that. I think we've seen kind of an uptick in misinformation on social media sites. So in the years 2018 to 2021, so this is prior to my tenure here, there were 1,682 homes approved, and many of those were approved with large public opposition. So in 2022 to the present, we have approved 204 homes. We have even worked with a developer on a project that was approved under the previous administration to reduce that development from 164 houses to 60, and that was on bigger lots with an 80-acre donation back to the town for public use. So that's a reduction of over 90% in new home development in 4 years. I think that transparency and really listening to our community has and will continue to be a priority for myself and for this council. So I encourage, if you have any questions about anything that you are seeing online or about any of the projects that we have going on, please reach out. We are all incredibly accessible. Our communications department has really upped their game. We try to put all of this out on our websites, our social media sites. So please use that and feel free to share all of the good facts with the community. So with that, are there any council comments tonight?
I'll just share that September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and I sit on the Cabarrus County Mental Health Advisory Board, and one of our biggest goals is just increasing awareness and accessibility to resources, kind of like what Assistant Chief Wooten was talking about with community paramedics. That's not something that the town offers. We partner with the county to make that happen. I would love to see us partner with the county in the realm of supporting our families that have been impacted by suicide or those that are struggling with mental illness. And understanding that our community has certainly been impacted by suicide in the last several months. And I know that we'll talk a little bit more about that and safety around the Burbo tracks and otherwise later on in tonight's meeting. We also, in the Mental Health Advisory Board meeting, if you remember a few months ago, I was asking the community to participate in the needs assessment survey that Cabarrus County was doing. Well, Dr. Jessica Grant presented the top 4 needs that showed at that survey, and the first one was the behavioral health concerns, which, you know, we're getting that behavioral health clinic up in the Copperfield area, and then early childhood development, housing, and then transportation. So, you know, I encourage everyone to just go to the Cabarrus Health Alliance website, the Cabarrus County website, and read the survey so that you can see what, you know, the needs are and the efforts that not only on this board, but other areas are working to address the 4 identified areas.
The only other comment I would add is related to food. I missed the grand opening of Hot Tuna, but I've made up. I've been 5 times. I'm going to keep going. It's excellent. It's one of the number 1 things we get hit with is, why don't we have a great restaurant in Harrisburg? Well, you got it. And why aren't we doing more in Town Center? Well, they're doing it. So come by and support those guys. It's really a great place. Sorry I missed the grand opening.
Mayor, this past Friday evening, I was able to attend the Lions Club Fish Fry. It was the first time I've been. It was great, and I want to encourage the community to go out and support them. They're actually having, this Friday night, they're having a spaghetti dinner. It's free spaghetti dinner if you just want to bring donations of canned goods to help with their blessing box. I'm sure they would appreciate that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Go early if you're going.
Yeah, go early.
Any other council comments? Okay, we do not have any public hearings or old business, so we will move right into our new business presentations. And first up is a consideration of supplemental service agreement with RK&K for the Harrisburg Rail Trail Greenway Design Services. And we've got Devin Houston with us tonight.
Mayor, quickly,
Yep.
should I step out for this since it's,
Is this the one?
No, this, the 6B would
Okay.
be on the Berg Church
Okay.
property.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and friends of Greenways. As the mayor said, the consideration for professional services contract for Harrisburg Rail and Trail Greenway. This Harrisburg Rail and Trail project consists of approximately 1 mile of Greenway Trail that would connect from Harrisburg Park, crossing over the railroad tracks, and then going behind the industrial park, connecting to Caldwell Road at a trailhead parking lot. So the current contract that's under consideration this evening is only for the portion that connects to the park and includes the crossing at the railroad, the grade separated crossing. We're not 100% sure whether that will be a tunnel or a bridge quite yet, but it will be grade separated. And then the future, we will come back with the remaining portion of the other phase to connect it to Caldwell Road. This rail and trail that we're calling it is a subset of the overall proposed Back Creek Greenway Trail. So with that, this is just the red circled area is the portion under consideration for design contract tonight. We'll call that phase 2. It may shorten a little bit if we have the ability to connect into the Greenway, the multi-use path that the YMCA has already built. Whether that's feasible or not, that's what this design contract will help iron out. It's broken down into 2 separate tasks. The first task is going to be surveying, drainage, and the general design, along with some other preliminary engineering stuff. And the cost for that is $148,543.79. Task 2 is $235,130. This is largely dependent on the results and everything that comes from the work done in task 1. So there is possibility for this number to change a little bit, but we won't know that until we get through task 1. And that's going to be the final structural design of the actual bridge, and we'll have to determine how much geotechnical work will need to be done to support any bridge or any boardwalks that may be necessary. The total fiscal impact of both of those tasks combined is $383,674.69. As you can see in the table, this was approved in the fiscal year 2025 budget with a total amount of $2,087,000 for the total project. You can see the contingency, we've adjusted that, which is the proposed budget and ordinance connected with this item tonight. We've adjusted that to account for the overage expected for the design. It doesn't change the total amount as of right now. And this was, RK&K is one of our design firms that we have pre-qualified using an on-call RFQ earlier in the year. And with that, I'll take any questions on this item.
Devin, how confident are you in the 1.5 that we're not going to find some boulder or Indian burial ground or?
I think Jim, from McGill spoke earlier, and he said if we had a crystal ball, we could tell you the design will really dictate. Hopefully, we're close, but there's always some uncertainty in these sorts of things.
So as a result of task 1 and task 2, we might find out this is a $3 million project.
I won't say no, and there's a possibility, but the hope is that at least for the design portion of it, that we'll be able to get through it and then get that number ironed out to what we need before we move into construction phase.
Fair and honest.
So Devin, question for you on the design portion. Is there an opportunity for us to see, like, you know, before this design is finalized, like if it's going to be a pedestrian bridge or a tunnel, like, you know, the safety measures of that before it's complete, like at, I don't know, 30 to 40% complete?
Safety measures?
Yeah, I
or,
mean, whatever it's going to look like, what that design is going
Yeah,
to look like.
as far as which option
I just don't
they
want
go-
us to get to the end of it.
They'll get into preliminary, and they will do, essentially the survey will be kind of what dictates the most. So they'll be able to see the actual grades and how it'll work. Then they'll take into consideration construction of a bridge versus construction of a tunnel, which time and funding wise is a huge it's a different undertaking which one goes. So if we know the extent of the bridge, it could be a lot cheaper than a tunnel, or it could need to be a massive bridge so the tunnel becomes cheaper. We just don't know till we get through the design phase.
Question. Will we be able to use some of the findings from this professional services expenditures, and because we approved the 250 to explore this potential, like Robinson Church Road, extending that either above or below the railway? Like, is there going to be any like benefit to us that we can leverage from here towards that project?
That project, I would say, not necessarily specifically, the analysis they'll do will be sort of narrow. In that regard, however, if we look at how much, if they do an exercise to see how much a tunnel is going to cost to go through there, and they get a design what it's like for pedestrians, or a bridge for pedestrians, then we could scale that potentially a little bit to get at least an idea of what a future project may look like for vehicles.
Okay.
Are these fees, is it just because you're having to deal with the rail, and I know what they're like to deal with?
I'm just used to seeing, you know, fee to construction costs.
You know, like the state of North Carolina has a goal of like 10%, for instance, and we're at like 20, and we're stealing contingency to pay. Like, is this a rail problem?
It's a multitude of different possibilities. So yeah, 10%, I agree. If I were to estimate a project and how much the PE would cost based on how much I estimated the construction to be, I would go 10 to 12% for
Right.
sure. So again, this number was estimated a few years ago. I believe it was done back in 2022. So it's a little bit outdated. That was kind of a tumultuous year to kind of try to estimate anything. And then we had the next item, actually, we had one bid at what will be presented tonight for $374 and another bid for $668. So estimating just is, it's a whirlwind right now. It's really hard to estimate anything completely accurately.
RK&K is just saying, look, this is what the design costs.
Correct.
They don't know what the real construction is.
They will give an opinion of probable cost as they get closer
Yeah,
to.
it telegraphs to me that they think it's gonna be, FYI, but you're pretty, I mean, you beat them up at least one time?
This is actually, yes, we did. And then they're also, we reached out to we got two proposals.
All right,
from two
there you
different
go.
firms
Then
as
I
well, and
feel
they
good
were
about
They
it.
were the lowest.
All right, good, thank you.
So who's doing the study on Robinson Church Road? Is it RK?
RK&K.
Yeah, okay. Seems like get a frequent flyer discount or something.
You would think.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong business.
Again, we have multiple firms that we qualified through an RFQ process earlier in the year. And I reached out to two firms for proposals on both of these items, and RK&K has come out on top both times.
All right, with that, is there a motion to approve the attached supplemental service agreement with RK&K in the amount not to exceed $383,674.69 for design services related to the Harrisburg Rail Trail Greenway and the related fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance and project ordinance amendments?
Wow. Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Did you get that? Thanks for the applause in the audience. Next, we have consideration of construction services contract for Back Creek Greenway Trailhead.
Okay, before you start, Devin, I just want to double check and make sure, since I'm one of the pastors at the Berg Church, do I need to step out, or, I know this is a construction agreement. Just want to make sure I'm above board on that.
You're not going to benefit personally, financially, are you?
No. Okay.
He doesn't work for RK&K apparently.
No, I do not.
With that, this is my second item this evening for the construction services contract for Back Creek Greenway Trailhead. This is, again, one portion of the overall Back Creek Greenway, which I have displayed up here. It stretches from Caldwell Road, winding all the way through Hickory Ridge, crossing over, connecting to what Camellia Gardens built, and then continuing on to where it would meet a future Fuda Creek Greenway at that last crossing there in the corner. You can look at this color chart. The light green is future proposed. The orange section is what is proposed construction now, circled in red, and that's what this item is recommending tonight. And then the dark green is what's currently existing and in place. This is a design of, this is what the design looks like and what we are looking to get built. And you see the connection to the existing greenway that Camellia Gardens built. And it stops at the bottom, the toe of the slope there at Hickory Ridge, and then that final connection will be made and designed with the Hickory Ridge Road project sidewalk as it goes through and comes to completion through there. But until then, access will be through the driveway there and through the parking lot to that connection down there. This easement agreement was made and entered with the Berg Church in April of 2024 to allow the greenway and this trailhead to be built on their property. It's the parking lot is intended as mutual use so that we can use it for public access for the greenway. It'll provide access over to the intramural fields over at the middle schools, which we also use for parks and rec activities. And then it'll allow the church to use this as additional parking as needed when that may arise. Currently, there's 66 gravel spaces that exist now. This design converts 44 of those to paved. It leaves 22 gravel spaces in place, and then it will add an additional 33 paved spaces. The fiscal impact of this contract is $379,807.67. And the budget amendment proposes to transfer $160,000 from the Transportation Capital Projects Fund over to this project to cover the additional costs. And this contract met the requirements for an informal bid procedure, so we estimated it below $500,000, so we were able to do an informal bid process, and Rand Paving provided the lowest responsive bid. And with that, I will take any questions.
I'm just a little confused. The asphalt is for the greenway and the parking lot? Is the greenway asphalt or is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is everything.
Yes, sir. Everything, the gray, darker gray hatched area in that area.
And what remains gravel?
It's not shown in this aerial, but to the right, you can see the kind of stretch of tree or bushes that do exist on the angled portion. That area is actually already existing gravel, and then the same sort of area with the bushes that exist going through the gray shaded area. On both sides of that, there is some gravel that the church had already put in place over the last couple of years.
Is it gravel? I'm sorry, so this darker, the bushes area, you said that?
So what appears to be grass with the bushes. Here we go.
Thank you.
So these bushes here,
Mm-hmm.
either side of that, so these spaces that exist here and here, that's gravel. And then here's gravel, as well as on the other side is gravel existing.
Okay.
So we'd be converting this area and then expanding these spaces beyond.
And are we concerned about how that area floods?
If you can barely see it, just above this line, that is the actual floodway line. Now this lot is within the 100, which is also on this plan, but maybe a little bit harder to see. It kind of cuts through here roughly. It does flood. It is a paved surface lot. You can have that in there. It exists. Whether it'll last as long as if it wasn't in a floodplain, that's yet to be seen, but it'll be all right for now. And then the greenway itself, those are in floodways all over the place. So.
And Devin, I just want to be clear, maybe it was on a earlier slide. So this immediately becomes effective. This is not a trail to nowhere, right?
Correct. If this portion here exists, and that is what Camellia Gardens built. Let's see. If we go here, so that green, the dark green exists. So this will actually complete all the way up to here, and then once Hickory Ridge sidewalk is built, then it will complete the loop all the way around. So there will be a complete loop around, and then these other lighter green areas will be other pieces of the pie that will have to come back with future projects.
I got you. Okay. And then the beneficiaries of this parking lot are people who they're free to come park here and get on the greenway and walk, and the church is free to use that on Sunday or Wednesday.
Correct.
And there's no restriction. It's first come, first served. If everybody wants to walk and go to church on Sunday, then.
Correct. If the church has an abundance of parking on a Sunday during their service, it's first come, first served, but most of the time
no reserved parking, none of the residents will be told you can't park here on Sunday at 11, right?
Correct.
As far as the easement language goes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, they gave us the easements, but we're still gonna maintain that parking lot.
Yes, yes.
It'll be a public parking lot.
It's the town's parking lot.
Yeah. And so we would anticipate, Sunday mornings for overflow parking to go here, but it would be more likely that the Berg Church would ask people to park somewhere else than we would ask residents to not park there on a Sunday. It can be vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are no more questions, is there a motion to authorize town manager to finalize negotiations and execution of the attached construction services contract for the Back Creek Greenway Trailhead to Ram Pavement Services in an amount not to exceed $379,807.67 and the related fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance and project ordinance amendments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you so much. Thanks, Devin. Next up, we'll have Jonathan joining us, and this is for consideration of a contract with Precision Safe Sidewalks, and this is for the sidewalk trip hazard removal in Kensington Forest.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. Maybe not as flashy as the one before, but definitely is important in my mind, and I think everybody would agree. So just a quick history on this project, or the projects. The town of Harrisburg did complete an ADA transition plan back in 2021. That's a federal plan. There's a lot of stuff that came out of that. It was for the majority of the town. There was a lot of components that have already been implemented throughout the years, over the last 5 or 6 years. Done a great job doing that. I'll show you a map here in a few minutes with that. But anyway, what we're going to be talking about tonight is some specific things associated with that, is trip hazards essentially. Again, those are areas 1.5 to 2.5 inches along a sidewalk or a greenway. Actually doesn't matter, that could develop into a trip for anybody traveling along those corridors. Precision Safe Sidewalks has actually worked for the town of Harrisburg for several years in this capacity. They're sole source. They come in and do work. They've done it around Town Hall and in a majority of the neighborhoods around for these trip hazards. Anything above the 2.5 inches is really considered something you got to go in and do infrastructure removal or changes out. This is a map out of that ADA transition plan. Anything in blue on the map was actually what they evaluated at that time. This has been going on again for that 5 or 6 years time frame. A lot of this work has been addressed. It was actually categorized in some high, medium, and low priorities. The high priorities were done right off the bat, and those actually encompass some of the mediums and lows as well. A majority of the mediums are taken care of, and then there's actually a good portion of the lows that have been as well. So we're going to actually have to run probably another transition plan in the next couple of years. Right now, we're still trying to finish up these few things. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about, obviously, we're talking about the Kensington Forest. Back last year, during the spring of last year, we actually had Precision Safe come in and do another assessment for us on just trip hazards. And they did it in 3 communities. We were able to cover one of those communities last year with our money, which was actually Hawthorne, and we're just working our way down the list. Next year will likely be Providence Manor. That does have some trip hazards as well in it. They do a good job when they come in. They identify not only the trip hazards, but they'll give us a report of the areas that we may need to go in there and do work on as well. So it's a great report. It's actually, I think, like, if I remember correctly, it's like 100 pages. It's a long report, but it does do a very good extensive work on what we need to go in and take care of. This is the recommended project tonight. I know the map's not great. This is straight out of the report, but everything's highlighted in color-coded, and so the blues are really your lower 1.5 to 1/2 to inch areas. Anything that's red are your bad areas, so you can kind of see those scattered throughout. And then, of course, your yellows are your medium areas as well. So there was, like I said, there's about 800 trip hazards in this particular community. And then there were several other identifications that we'll be working on from a maintenance standpoint, and of course, with the additional funds that will be left in our budget. Cost of that contract is $88,841. We do have budgeted $100,000 in this year's budget to do this work. And then, of course, it does meet the goals of providing safe, well-maintained, dependable public facilities, systems, and services. With that, I will take questions.
Who did the original install of these sidewalks, and were they built in a defective venue, right?
So
where are the guilty?
It's a great question. I'm not sure who that is. I think it was Niblock, maybe. I'm not sure who it was.
To follow that, though, I might be a little bit familiar with this.
Yeah, there you go.
But this is just going to be a reoccurring project with the tree roots and how they're shifting. Like, do you pick a different tree? What do you do to help prevent, all the shifts? Because, I like to see this, because it is bad. I didn't realize 700 and something places bad, but,
Sure.
So
that's a great question, Mayor Pro Tem. So you're right. This is a reoccurring problem. That doesn't mean you can't go in, well, actually, you're not required to address it. So tree roots are the major issue in sidewalks. Older neighborhoods like Kensington that was built, some of the trees that were there are not necessarily the trees we would put in those areas today. They have a lot of tree roots that come up. You get a high water, you got a lot of irrigation along those corridors. It tends to grow well. Obviously, that's a great area for those trees to thrive, and they have. The trees we use in some of the corridors today are not necessarily that same, and we also widened out those spaces. But again, it's just something you do see, and we do see those areas coming back a little bit. But again, if you can get them addressed, it's a continuous effort, but it is something that's very important. But again, on your older neighborhoods, I don't know how old Kensington Forest is. You may know that.
2007-ish.
Yeah, so 2007, so we're looking almost
5-ish.
20 years, and now we're really just having to address some of those major issues at this point. I think it's pretty good.
And as you're replacing the trees that are damaged, are you replacing them with a tree that will be less likely to?
We are, that's a
go
great
out?
question. Yes, ma'am, we do. We replace those with some trees that we would recommend today.
Okay.
And I think we did some replacements in Kensington this past year.
Last month.
So they just die. I mean, they're.
Oh, storm damage.
Yeah.
It's not requirement.
Well, I mean, we're replacing them back in the ones that were there, and we do have a requirement currently that they have trees in the.
Those are separate projects. We replace trees as they die, just as part of our town ordinances. The sidewalks, we have an ADA transition plan. A lot of towns don't.
Yeah.
They're you're supposed to. We're one of those towns that are ahead of the curve on this. But I think, in general, the simpler question, John's being very kind, Public Works speak here, is that Kensington's almost 2 decades old, and every 2 decades you're going to spend about $100,000 in there. So it's like, you know, that's just life. That's every neighborhood's going to be like that. After you get about 20 years into a neighborhood, they're going to have some shifting, even if these were built perfectly, and I don't know if they were or not back in 2007, but even if they were, concrete cracks, water gets under concrete, it moves, it shifts, tree roots do come up, you adjust it, and I'll see you in 20 more years after you go through and spend $100,000.
I guess what I'm struggling with a little bit, you know, if I'm in Camelot and I never got my sidewalk, but I'm a taxpayer, and the folks in Kensington who have an HOA and have a wonderful sidewalk and have a developer who's long gone, the rest of us are paying for the sidewalk in Kensington, which probably need to, and I'm sure our attorney can tell us why we are.
That's how roads and sidewalks work. They're public infrastructure.
Right.
So, you know, the taxpayer pays for when the greenways crack and the floodways come through and wash them out, all the taxpayers will pay for it, not just the people that walk on them. There are some neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks that came in before some of our development ordinances, but nobody comes in without sidewalks now. Some came in with sidewalks on one side. Nobody comes in with sidewalks on one side now. It's sidewalks on both sides with curb ramps and all of those things. So the majority of our town has sidewalks, but there are some that would say, well, I don't have a sidewalk. Why do I pay for a sidewalk? But in the grand scheme of things, we're spending about $2,000 a year per neighborhood to maintain sidewalks. It's really not a significant amount.
So this remediation, you just go in there with a grinder and knock down the high spots? Is that?
You do. They actually have we actually have a grinder in-house, but this one that they use is completely different. So I would actually encourage you to walk outside. There's one here right beside Town Hall that was ground down using just a traditional grinder, and it's a lot, how would I say it, it's just a lot more rough. What they use, their process is it's just a lot smoother. You can hardly recognize it other than the color. The color of the sidewalk changes, of course, because, you know, that is aged over the time, but it's really smooth, easier to access, easier to go across, and then they also guarantee that it'll meet ADA standards. So when it gets done, they'll have it back to the ADA quality. And then I would say one thing about the maintenance as well. You know, it's really no different. We're required, obviously, to maintain our sidewalks, but it's no different than us maintaining roads or any of the things that happen. Curbs, you pick the thing. You know, those are part of the maintenance budget that people put together. Any community, doesn't matter what it is. So it's, you know, something that we are. That transition plan is actually a federal plan, a requirement, so you can get federal funds. I mean, that's the goal. That's the reason they're there.
If you have a sidewalk.
Yeah, if you have sidewalks.
Right.
I don't have sidewalks.
So you're using federal funds for that? Is that what this is?
I'm sorry?
You are using federal funds for that?
No. Your transition plan, you have to meet those requirements to get those federal funds and for other things.
So you can use them. We use state funds for this as well, like Powell funds. Those are state funds that can only be used on your roadways.
What about, is Kensington connected to is there any future connection to any greenways, or is that in the plans anywhere?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I don't know. I'd have to look at the map to see.
Yeah, I mean, without looking at our Greenway master plan, I'd hard to say if there's anything on that. If I had my way, every neighborhood in Harrisburg will be connected with a Greenway. So my short answer is going to be yeah, but.
I love it.
I know there's sidewalks that can on either side, so a lot of times you can look at it that way. And also to Rob's point, any new construction we have today, you know, we're requiring multi-use paths along any of those. So I know there is a subdivision. I think if you look on your development map right behind that, I probably is going to have some greenways on there, but I don't know if it's connected today.
Are we in a situation right now where we're liable if anybody trips? Little Jimmy falls down on the sidewalk. Is that us?
I don't know if I can answer that question. That might be an attorney question.
I can actually answer that a little better. I mean, Rich is going to look over to me, but
You wanna go first, Rob?
I'll give him the engineering liability. You can give him the legal liability. That's why we have an ADA transition plan, is in order to avoid the liability. So if you don't have a plan and you know about this and you're doing nothing, you're liable. If you have a plan and you know about it, and as long as you're reasonably working on that plan, then you fall under the same exemptions you do if somebody runs a stop sign and things like that. If you don't know about it, you also are not liable, just from that same maintenance standpoint.
Now we know.
I'm sure there's some other stuff that Rich can add to that.
Well, that actually pretty well sums it up, except that if you do have a lippage or, a difference in the grade of a couple pieces of concrete, it doesn't necessarily make you liable, even if you know about it. So what Rob said is the general rule, but if it's something that is clearly seen by someone who's walking along and they trip over it, then if they get injured because of that, like I say, you're not necessarily liable for their injuries. So it's kind of a gray area overall. It kind of would depend on the specific circumstances of the situation. So, but overall, it's better to have a plan like the town has and be working it, because that does stand you in good stead in court.
So we have this plan and we fund 100,000 every year towards this plan? Okay.
Seems crazy. It's the right thing to do.
And like-
Look, you want good-looking sidewalks in a good-looking town, right? But we've spent so much time on this. I'm just going to get off on my soapbox for a minute. So, in the 1970s, I think it was Sweden. Don't quote me. It was a Scandinavian country. The largest insurance agent there, property and liability insurance company, noticed that they were having a huge uptick in claims against personal injury, right? People falling down. So they commissioned, they're for profit, right? They commissioned an outsider to come in and do a study on it. Well, what they found out is that they had made all their playgrounds so safe over the past 20 years that none of the children were slipping and falling and scraping their knee and getting hurt on the monkey bars. And those children that didn't learn how to fall grew up to be adults who didn't know how to save themselves from falling. I'm not kidding. You can look this up. I'll send it to you if you send me an email. And so the insurance company started donating, quote unquote, dangerous playground equipment to every school in the country, and they reduced their overhead payouts over the next 20, 30 years by like 15, 20%. So that's my soapbox on like maybe people can scrape their knees a little bit, but I think the sidewalk should look nice. So I'm okay with it. Sorry.
It's just tough because like half the neighborhoods in the town don't have their sidewalks yet, so, and that's, I understand it wasn't a requirement, so.
Anyway, I'll send you this stuff.
You're welcome to drive over to Kensington and walk on their new sidewalk.
She walks in our neighborhood. We all have sidewalks.
Yeah.
She likes our neighborhood.
Orchard Park doesn't
Yeah.
have sidewalks.
We have partial sidewalks.
Windsor Forest, all the neighborhoods around us, none of them have sidewalks. So,
Yeah, it was definitely not
William
uncommon.
doesn't have sidewalks, and everybody's flying on it like 80 miles an hour, so, you still see people trying to walk from one neighborhood to another.
Yeah.
Or like biking and trying to make it really quick from that one neighborhood to another, so.
Who's friends of the Greenway now? Huh?
Okay, with all that fun discussion, is there a motion to award construction services contract in the amount of $88,841 to Precision Safe Sidewalks LLC for the sidewalk trip hazard removal in Kensington Forest subdivision? Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you so much. And Jonathan's going to stay with us for our final
Yes.
decision this evening, and that's consideration of design contract for Phase 1 of the Moorhead West Sanitary Sewer and Leatherwood Pump Station decommissioning capital improvement
Yeah,
plan.
that is a lot. We have had a lot of discussion about this tonight, so I'm going to try to be brief. I know town manager has mentioned this, and then, of course, a lot of our economic development folks as well. But this project was started back in 2021 and has already been designed. And again, this is an update to that design. Just a quick background, 1,600 acres between 49 and US 29. Phase 1's about 4,680 linear feet of 12-inch gravity, 710 feet of 8-inch gravity, and then, of course, the decommissioning of Leatherwood Pump Station, which is always a good thing when we can get one of our pump stations offline. And then, of course, the project was bid in 2021 and was decided not to move forward at that time just because of some of the high prices after COVID-19. So we do believe that it's the time to do that now with all of our economic development interest in that area. Just a quick, exciting future glance at that. This is some marketing brochures that I was able to get from our economic development director. And you can kind of see what we have planned a little bit, again, conceptual in nature, but the yellow line represents the Phase 1 project that we're looking at tonight. Again, that's a large area, obviously you can see. And kind of the Caldwell Road extension, if you remember, is coming through here as well. And then again, this over here is where that project would start, which is an existing Wasatch line. And then Leatherwood would be basically right in this area right here with Moorhead running in between. And this is a little bit more blown up of that same area. The proposed project tonight, or the proposal, is for project management administration permitting, which is actually just updating some permits. There's several things that have gone out of date since 2021. And then they're also including some key elements from value engineering that were, when the bid was, when they were bidding this project back in 2021, the contractor and some of the folks then made some recommendations that we're going to try to incorporate into this project, hopefully get those numbers down. And then, of course, bidding, award, and construction-based services. Cost of the project, $103,000, will be funded by capital improvement, and the project meets the town's goal of providing safe, well-maintained, dependable facility systems and services. I'll take questions.
I don't have a problem with this project. How many pump stations do we have left? We've got to be
15.
15? And like 3 we just never going to be able to do anything about?
Yeah, it's probably even bigger than that. It's probably like 6
Okay.
that unless there's some major change, they're going to be there for a long time.
All right. Just keep decommissioning.
Yeah, we've got a couple on our capital improvement project for decommissioning, so definitely, the more that we can pull it off, they are definitely challenged.
They're just money.
Yeah, and this one makes financial sense now because the economic development climate. If you remember, those that were here, we paused it at the time because it was, the cost was so high. But it's always had that same benefit of, we do have sanitary sewer overflows at this pump station. When we get heavy rains, that's one of the first ones that backs up, and that does go right into that water source there. So that benefit stays the same and has the added benefit of the economic development component.
All right, with that, is there a motion to award contract to Black & Veatch Engineering in the amount of $103,000 for the updated design of Phase 1 of the Moorhead West Sanitary Sewer and the Leatherwood Pump Station Decommissioning Capital Improvement Project, and this authorized town staff and the town attorney to finalize the contract terms and related budget documents. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Action items, Rob, I have comp plan survey, just making sure that we're looking into that.
Okay.
I think there's supposed to be an update.
Yeah, I didn't have any action items, so that's, I marked that one down, but that'd be the only one I had for this evening.
Okay, that's the only one I had as well. We do have a need for closed session tonight to discuss land acquisition and a personnel matter. For those in the audience, there is no more business after that closed session, so we will just come out of closed session and adjourn for the evening. So is there a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.